welcome to Woodward Sports' 2025 NBA Draft Show. You know, we're going to have some fun tonight because we were some ball knowers. Flannel Sam down there, vet of the squad, vet of this network. Chris Platty, one of the best ball knowers that I know. NBA, Pistons, anything with that ball in a hoop, man. This guy right here, Chris Platty, knows it. And you guys already know it's your boy Brandon Dent, a.k.a. Detroit Kool-Aid, your credential Pistons reporter and writer for the network. Shout out to the network and shout out to those that support and make this stuff happen. We got intern Ryan in the sound booth, and we got that dude Justin. He is battling allergies and everything else right now in the TD booth. He's done a lot to help get the show going today. And Platty, you all over the place, man. Like, I know these draft picks, these prospects, they got a life, is busy, but you all over the place right now. You were downtown for a broadcast, and you love this stuff. And you were like, I got to get back here for it.
Absolutely, man. I was going to make the trip. It's when you throw the bat signal to talk Pistons, I don't miss. I don't miss every time I pull up. No, it's a good time, man. I actually, I got excited about these prospects. A couple weeks ago, you know, you're thinking, okay, how excited can you be for 37? And then you start diving into it. And then you start diving into the prospects that are available last night, you know, and, looking at the guys that you liked through your scouting process. Yep. And, it's hard not to get excited because, I mean, guys, people like Nikola Jokic were drafted in the second round. I know you're probably tired of hearing that stat, but, the second round can matter. So, anything that can matter, I'm excited about.
I'm excited about it too, especially when you know that you have an organization that drafts well right now. Whether it was Troy Weaver before or Trajan Langdon right now, I actually thought the picks of Dennis Jenkins and Bobby Klintman were very, very savvy picks in the second round by him. So I am looking forward to this year's number 37 pick. We know last year's number 37 overall pick, Bobby Klintman. And I do believe that we would have seen a lot more of him in the NBA had he not gotten injured. And I do like to reference that because there's some who sit on the side of, well, the second round doesn't matter. There's some who sit on the side of, there is some gems out there. Who's your GM?
I was going to say, Chris, you could add to that Jalen Brunson, Manu Ginobili, Draymond Green, Michael Redd. I'm not saying that anybody in this draft is going to be those guys, but
could be.
The more I was diving in, the more I'm like, there's a chance the Pistons actually get a difference maker at 37.
That's why I got excited. If y'all saw the video, I was like, yo, there's still players on the board.
Oh, I know. Yeah, at the end of the night, I'm looking, I'm like, holy. I got 5 of the guys I really like still on the board.
Hold it, though. Because there's going to come a time when I ask you guys, who's your pick?
We're going to save that, but I was excited by that. And to go off your point about Trajan, too, I'm excited because remember last offseason, guys, where Trajan was kind of thrown into this right before the draft. Yeah. You know, and he had a lot to do. He had to figure out a coach. He had to make a draft. It was all kind of on the fly. So this is his first draft really at the helm of Detroit, really knowing, you know, having all the experience, a full offseason for Trajan Langdon, one where he doesn't have to figure out a coach, one where he doesn't have to interview for a job. You know, so I'm excited to see what he does because, like I said, I mean, you talked about it, man. He has a great track record in New Orleans that he is bringing here. He comes from the Spurs tree. You know that just plants success. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited to see what he does with his first full draft. Does he get aggressive and move up? Does he stay where he's at? It's gonna be fun, man.
I think he tipped his hand when he said best player available. Now all of a sudden, you know, especially when you looked at the list and you see there's still some ball players. I believe he's not going to mortgage anything for any of these players right now in this draft. Obviously, if somebody takes a serious tumble, like maybe you could say a Dalton Connect or even a Cam Whitmore before him, then maybe you move up. But I don't quite think that player took a fall this year. And so it puts you in a position to where maybe you go with who's best available because you're not expecting to necessarily impact the rotation a whole lot right away. And that still gives them some good players, man, which is pretty dope. But I got to be honest with y'all. I was sitting there hoping for, you know, the unthinkable, Danny Wolf, slide to the second round, Detroit Pistons. Maybe that's my trade-up candidate. But as the board has shaped out, I am pretty excited about the prospects of the Detroit Pistons being able to get a player of the caliber of like a Shaz Lanier, a Max Reynaud, and Rasheer Fleming, though, I think that's a name we just need to take off of our bucket list.
No.
Because the Phoenix Suns traded up.
They did.
They traded up with the Minnesota Timberwolves, and word on the street is Rasheer Fleming is the guy that they want. And I was looking.
That's my guy.
He's NBA ready, bro. He's NBA ready.
Do something stupid.
Phoenix Suns, man.
Please.
Talk to me, y'all.
Failed. Because I looked at that guy, and I'm like, that's the one. That's the guy. That's the one I'm looking at. That's the player I'm looking at. He's phenomenal. So let's hope that Phoenix does what he does. And hey, Matt Ishbia, just remember, Detroit ties. Come on, man.
Rasheer Fleming.
It's like you got business here, Matt. You have business here.
Come on, man. I know some of your work.
Yeah, no, he'll make one of the teams that got maybe a little bit too cute in the first round pay.
Yeah.
I think he's a first round talent. But even just some of the other guys, though, like we're talking about if you were a college basketball junkie last year, we're talking about some of the best players in the country. Maxime Reynaud, Chaz Lanier, Ryan Kalkbrenner. I mean, Rasheer Fleming. I mean, those are guys who put up huge numbers and did some really special things in college. I mean, there's others, too, who have more of a specific set of skills, obviously some international. But these are names that college basketball fans will know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's still a lot to be played with. And look, man, Trajan too also has a good track record of developing talent too. So, you know, obviously these guys are second round picks for a reason, right? They don't have quite necessarily all this stuff. Like we talked about Rasheer Fleming. I can point to the flaws in his game. All of these players are flawed prospects at this point in the draft. But it's up to you to find the one that you can mold. And even if you draft them right, you have to have that ingredient of a good coaching staff. And I have faith that between the shooting coach that we have, between JB Bickerstaff, between everybody we have top to bottom on this coaching staff, that you have the ability to develop players. And so I'm excited because Trajan, I mean, you know, if you just pick the right guy and then mold them, you could be a role player. And that's my takeaway. Like, you're not expecting to get a top 5 pick like we're used to getting here in Detroit. You are getting somebody that you are hoping can contribute to your team, maybe not even next season, maybe in a couple of seasons, but somebody that can be an NBA player going forward, somebody that can be on the playoff or on the floor during the NBA playoffs. That's what you want. You're not looking for the starter. You have a lot of young talent that's good, and you have a top-tier starting lineup. You just have to find that support system. I believe they're one role player away from winning that Knicks series, and I don't think anyone here disagrees.
Well, yeah, and I believe one role player that was already on the team. If Stewart is more healthy for that series, or if you get Ivy or both of those guys, the Pistons, I do believe, are more healthy than some of us want to give them credit for. Even us as even me, I'll say me. I'll take that on me as more slappy, I guess, more Kool-Aid of it all. You know, I this team is very close, but I do believe they need a role player and maybe just a little bit more. But what I do like about this second round is the fact that, you know, as we continue to look at his track record, Trajan has been able to, whether it's him or whether his staff, or we see now his ability to not just identify players, but look at the front office. Look at the organization. They have development in there. They've beefed up even the scouting organization that much more. Yeah. And shout out to Trajan Langdon, who, you know, and Tom Gores, who Dwayne Casey is one of our top pro scouts. And now he's kind of international. He's like all over the place. So the Pistons have their eyes all over. Make sure they get a wealth of information so that they don't have to rely on secondhand and tertiary information like they did with Killian Hayes and even Darko and Andre Drummond. Now they're in a position to where Trajan Langdon, as like Tom Gores said, that singular voice, he's the one controlling the show, dictating things, and getting the right people for the job. His first hire was Fred Vinson. You see what I'm saying? Like that type of hire. Michael Blackistone. And then and think about it. We had him on the network. Shout out Big D Energy. We talk about him. I know you talk about him. I talk about him. Neil does. Flannel does, right? And then, but no one else does until when? Dennis Schroeder trade. And then you realize, how did they get him for basically free? How did they tightrope the cap that way? And then you realize Michael Blackistone, what's his reputation? That he knows the new CBA better than even whole organizations in the league. So this front office for the Pistons, they are well primed and set up right now to make some things happen. And they have flexibility. They got it. So that's what I like about this draft here. I know that they're going to find a player. You look back to last year when, and I'm going to continue to say this, the Pistons are going to be a load management team in the last quarter of the season. That's just who they're going to be. Cade Cunningham is going to need that. We saw what happened with Beasley's legs when the playoffs hit. And then who did you see getting playing time? Some of those two-way players. Yes. And that's what I think. And I told this to Flannel. I don't know if you feel the same. I believe that the Pistons, as much as I like Dennis Jenkins, and shout out to him for being one of the better players in the G League and contributed when called upon with the Pistons, I believe that there are better prospects that the Pistons are going to have the ability to pick than even Dennis Jenkins and Bobby Klintman a year ago. Yeah. And so if they were contributing last year to some degrees, you have to think that these people here are going to get an opportunity because what are you doing with a Paul Reed necessarily?
Yeah.
So,
another good cap example too, by the way. That move for Paul Reed.
That was another one.
Yeah,
it was brilliant.
brilliant.
To get him and then the release and re-sign, that was a good one.
That is some genius stuff. No, I like what you're saying. I agree with that, Flannel. I'm wondering how you think about these prospects, because you hear it all the time, right? There are these adages that, hey, these guys have young legs, they're all right, but everybody's legs run out, and I do think part of that did come true in that New York series. And so while these guys have young legs, you also don't want to put unnecessary miles on these players. And so Kool-Aid made a great point about finding those players that can supplement. You got guys like Marcus Sasser that I have faith in and stuff, and you're hoping to get another one out of this draft, right?
I mean, yeah. And at some point, that was last year. The Pistons had to get over that hump of 14 to 44. Now they know what winning is like. Now they know, or at least winning in the regular season, and now they got that playoff experience in which some of their guys clearly did have some tired legs. Even Cade Cunningham, they understand. Absolutely. They understand that they could use some, like, maybe a guy in this draft that could end up contributing. They understand that Bobby Klintman could be somebody. Marcus Sasser could have a bigger role down the stretch, even if he doesn't
one
necessarily.
More year of control too.
Yeah, even if he doesn't necessarily bode well or play a huge role in the playoff rotation. Those guys that get those minutes down the stretch, they matter.
You need inning eaters. Like, that's what I liked about Rasheer Fleming, is like that was a guy that I saw as in, like, my comp for him was Obi Toppin, right? And Obi Toppin's a great player. You saw him playing at the NBA Finals, right? Like, and contributing very well and having good games deep in the playoffs. But you also just need those guys that can, at game 56 of the regular season, just play 28 minutes off the bench and give Stu an easy night, or give Tobias an easy night. Like, you need those type of players. So that inning eater stuff is huge.
Yeah, and I like what the Pistons are doing right now by going out there and getting these guys who, like a Ron Holland, whether you're at a pick 5 or whether you're down in the draft, I believe that there are players like that. Those guys who go all out. What was Ron Holland saying when he got here? All I want to do is whatever the coach is asking me to do. My defense is going to be the thing that I make sure I have. To the point that I know I'm going to get playing time. And that's what I see in this draft. When you're looking at these top maybe 10, maybe 11 prospects, I believe that you're going to get some aspect of a player who's going to be a high-level specialist, whether it's a three-point shooter, whether it's somebody as it relates to their physicality, whether it's, like you said, an innings or a minutes eater like a Rasheer Fleming. I do believe that the Pistons are going to have their opportunity to grab a player like this. But you're right. That's what attracts us and drew our attention so much to a Rasheer Fleming. And you see the Phoenix Suns make a move like this, and part of me wants to say, man, isn't this the type of move the Pistons should make?
Yes.
But when you look at the moves that the Suns have been making and the way it's just fell flat, part of me is like, okay, Trajan, listen, like Scott Harris, we trusted him now.
Yeah.
Like Brad Holmes, we trust him, even when they don't go out there and get the proverbial edge or big bat. So that's where with Trajan, I'm like, okay, you didn't trade up, I'm going to trust him, because you're right. With the load management stuff, these guys are going to get their time. Marcus Sasser played really good minutes for the Detroit Pistons.
Absolutely.
And I wonder sometimes if they don't trade up, I know how much Troy Weaver liked him. I do wonder, does he slip into the second round? Those low first, high second round graded players, they're all, it's about 15 or 20 of them. They're all in the same pool, basically. So
and it's just
they're going to play if you get the right guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, but I want to push back on one point, or not push back, but just offer another perspective here. When it comes to Trajan, this is a question I have. You're talking to a guy that said he should have won Executive of the Year. But if I want to play the devil's advocate of it, can you say that it's too early to give him that trust? Because when it comes to the draft, because we have Brad Holmes, who's shown immense drafting ability. We've seen Scott Harris and the way that farm system has been built in the MLB here in Detroit. And so those GMs have had longer time, obviously, but are we just kind of liking what we've seen from Trajan, which there's nothing to critique here, but are we just liking what we see so far and kind of giving him a benefit of the doubt because of that? Or do we need another draft to kind of see, like, okay, particularly, I'm just talking the draft. I'm not talking as a whole. We trust him as a whole, but for the draft.
For the draft, you have, when you bring him in to be the president of basketball operations, and you're saying we trust what your vision is, what your voice is, and we're going to get behind that. And I actually appreciate that, because we've seen what this was prior. and it was too many cooks in the kitchen, too many voices, too many scout eyes that weren't all aligned. So from that point already, you have to give him a certain aspect of trust, but there's a clear delineation between the trust you give Brad and Scott Harris because of what their teams have done. And even Scott Harris, I'm accelerating it just a little bit, but you take into effect who he's been prior to with Scott Harris. But with Trajan Langdon, you're right. This is his first big-time job, and it's a situation where I wanted them to be able to trade up for a player like Danny Wolf. I thought at one point in time they would have to trade up, but they may have to get a Maxime Reynaud. I wanted them to trade up to get a Rasheer Flemings. I would have loved, because we talked about it, the Pistons have a wealth of second-round picks, and all it took was second-round picks to be able to get this deal done. I think 3 in total. So the swaps this year and then 2 future seconds. So that's where I'm like, yeah, I personally would have definitely done that. And so if I want to be critical of one thing, I can say, hey, I probably would have been a little bit more aggressive. But with Trajan Langdon, he hasn't given me any reason right now to say, you know what, I need to say that was a bad thing that he skipped on it. I want to see who he picks and how the rest of the offseason goes. But like you said, just center focusing in on the draft, he doesn't get what Brad and Scott get right now, but he definitely is going to get more of the benefit of the doubt from me.
No, the reality, too, is, and I know I might sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. I talked about how this pick could be a difference maker, and I gave a plethora of examples of second-round picks who have not only been difference makers, they've been
amazing,
like superstars to stars to like damn good players. I even forgot to mention Chris Middleton, who just popped up on ESPN. But at the end of the day, is it a disaster if the Pistons whiff on the 37th pick?
No.
That's why I'm not really putting too much stock in Trajan Langdon's competency with this 37th pick.
Right.
But but also at the same time, and by the way, a pick 31, I believe it's the Suns. They are on the clock right now. If he makes a pick that I don't necessarily like, I'll say something. Obviously, we can't judge off of a day one, but he's not above reproach. But at the end of the day, the 37th pick, there's not as much stock in it as other teams have. As 5. Yeah,
as 5 that we've been so
many years. Seems like back to back to back.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You know, with a Trajan, this is a guy who you bring him in to trust him, and it's an aspect of faith too. This is his first big job, and you're hoping that everything that was said about him prior, everything that you got as relates to your references and the different rooms he's been involved in. You know, like I wonder if he was one of the ones involved with identifying a Willie Green as a head coach, because that to me it's a brilliant move. I think he's a really, really good basketball mind. But was there anything from the first round, as we're getting into the second round, was there anything from the first round that shocked you, stood out to you, or that you thought was going to be a little bit different? For me, it was interesting to see the amount of international players that were getting drafted in the first round and project players, which then effectively pushed some really good players into the second round for the Pistons. Yeah,
I think a lot of people swung for potential, and you notice, too, that there were 9 teams. Pistons were one of 9 teams that did not have a first-round selection this year. So that led to your wealth of picks in the Brooklyn Nets, which was my takeaway. It was surprising to me that they had all 5 of those, and we talked about that in the heavyweights just a couple hours ago. Would you rather, have 5 bullets in the chamber to get your guy, or would you rather package those picks and go get someone you really think is a guy? And so I thought that was interesting. That was my biggest thing I was watching up in the night, because Brooklyn is a team that needs a star. I don't think Cam Thomas is their guy. So that, to me, was my biggest standout, was the fact that they just decided, no, you know what? We're going to not only take 5 guys, they're pretty much all going to be guards, and we're just hoping that 1 or 2 of these guys hit. And if 1 or 2 of these guys hit in a very real way, then they're calling that a successful draft. And I'm not all the way mad at it. If you guys are the GM, if Trajan says, look, I'm taking the night off, I need to be with the family, you 3 are running it. So we're in the war room right now. Are you, with those surplus of second picks, going for a guy like, are you going to move up in the draft, or are you saying, no, at the trade deadline, I traded 2 seconds, and I got a guy that was, that I know has contributed. I've seen him play on an NBA floor. So are you saving your second-round picks for those moves rather than a draft pick?
They have so many that they can do both. That's the thing. The Pistons could trade all their first-rounders for a star,
True.
No.
He's come to haunt the show.
I can barely slide a credit card underneath his feet. I got Janai Broom, though, in our Swisher brick because I was like, you know what? We got the ball.
Fleming just got taken.
Oh, yeah.
With
so the 31st pick.
31st pick, the Timberwolves selected Rasheer Fleming for the Phoenix Suns because we know that pick has been traded. So
Naz Reid replaced
shout out to him.
I mean,
golly, man, that would have been a nice selection for the Detroit Pistons. And you know, when you talk about who Rasheer Fleming is, this is a guy who could play all over the court, all three levels. You're looking at just under 15 points a game, just under 9 rebounds a game, 1.3 assists, 53% from the field. And you know what you love? 3-point percentage. It jumped from 32.4 to 39% from 23-24 season to 24-25.
On more attempts, too.
On more attempts,
too. That's what you like to see out of a guy that's been 3 years in college. That's why I was so in love with this guy, is because every year you saw improvement. And that's the type of guy, again, I'm looking for a role player. Obi Toppin is in year, if I believe I'm not mistaken, 6, I think, or 5, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And, you know, he contributed on an NBA Finals team. Like, that's the start of your second contract. So, to me, I'm looking at a guy that, you know, I don't need to necessarily contribute right away. But that's a guy that's getting better time and time again. That's a guy I like betting on. Plus, obviously, his elite athletic traits. What did you feel?
I was gonna say, and Flannel, you know what I like about about what he did last year, and it was from year 1 to year 2. Talk about growth, those stocks, man. He's sitting just under 3 stocks per game.
Well, he's athletic and he's got that wingspan is insane.
7'5".
I believe. Yeah, 7'5". To me, Rasheer Fleming. Man, I know that it's a lot to put this kind of a floor on a second-round pick, but but I think his floor, honestly, is a very, very competent and impactful 3-and-D guy that one day we're going to be talking about as maybe the Danny Green archetype. Not the same type player, but you understand that type of player who it's like, man, every winning team could use a guy like that, like Danny Green or even Kentavious Caldwell-Pope or somebody. Again, not the same type of player, but that type of impact role player.
Yeah,
Obi
absolutely.
Toppin.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, that's a guy that you're going to see, and you're going to be like, man, 29 other teams want that guy as well, or a guy like him. That's what I think he is in that. So, to me, I mean, you know, that was a very, very good pick, and unfortunately that was not made by the Pistons.
You were
I would have moved up.
Yeah,
I would have moved up. Because what does it take? 37 to move up 6 picks.
It's
what does
just
it take?
second
37
rounders.
and 1 second rounder. At that point, you're moving up 6 spots.
That's-
You're not moving into the first.
That's what I've been telling people. I've been saying,
Like,
look, it
I
only
would've done
takes a couple seconds to move up in this
I would've
draft.
done it.
But I wonder here, because when we do talk about the scouts, let me do this first. With the Nets, I do believe that what they're trying to do, I'm hoping it pans out for them. You know, when you see a team go out through that many draft picks, you know, of course,
I want to hit everybody.
Well, I hope it hits for at least one player, Mr. Danny Wolf, at the very least. But what you see them doing, you have to appreciate the attempts. But it would be nice to know that your organization can go out there and field a nice team as well. You talk about the contracts they've doled out, the players they thought were going to become high level. There were players like Cam Johnson. I said, do not give that man a contract. I said, I don't want to see him in the Pistons jersey. I was screaming that everywhere I could scream it. And you look at the decisions they've made, and to be able to get the haul that you do for Bridges, you have to have at least 1 or 2 of these type of picks hit for you. But I don't have a problem with a team that's going to go into the draft and try this. And they tried it all over the board. But something's telling me I don't think that the Nets are necessarily going to I don't see them as anything serious over the next 5 to even 10 years.
No, until one of these prospects hit, I mean, they're in no man's land, because if Cam Thomas is your best player, where are you going? You just used 5 of your first that you have in stock. So how much in your war chest do you really have to go get a guy like a Giannis or a game changer that you've been linked to, which I think is just Brooklyn PR at this point. Like, honestly, I don't see a star player going, that's where I want to go. Not yet, at least. Unless one of those young guys hits, that changes everything. And maybe that's their mentality, is we're taking 5 shots, find one guy that hits, and that attracts the star.
And I was going to say, with the second round picks, I was going to say, Boston's on the board right now.
Right about to pick. So let's
And the
see.
pick is going to be traded to the Magic?
Noah Penda.
My other guy.
Oh, man.
France.
From France.
I'm with you on that one, Chris.
My other guy.
Oh, man. So you're
Crash out, Chris.
I had 5 on the board. If all 5 of them get taken before I get to the Pistons selection, yeah, no,
Well,
that is a crash out.
I didn't have Noah Penda as one of my selections in the top. So for me personally, it moves another one of those players down the draft board for the Pistons.
And you know what I'll say is this too.
I had him just after though. I like him.
Yeah, I like the two guys that are, again, they're very high on my board. I would have taken them in the first round because I believe in these guys. But from the perspective, I think this is very clear that because of how close they are in terms of picks within the Pistons, I think this clearly says that Rasheer Fleming and Noah Penda were both not Trajan guys, right? I think if they're that close, I think Trajan would have struck if that was who he identified as his guy. Do you believe that, or do you believe that he's comfortable just letting it fall to him?
I think for where they are right now, because you look at the organizations that are potentially doing this, like this is the Magic and the Suns who are getting these players.
Yeah.
I think that their organizations health-wise are just in a different type of position. I think that they can even better support the rotation that these guys will be able to be in. And that's where I think the difference is. Some of these guys have to be a little bit more aggressive and desperate, whereas the Pistons have, I believe, this offseason and next offseason, where I believe that you look at the draft class coming next offseason, there is a lot to like there. And that's where I do believe Trajan Langdon is probably saying, you know what, this might be the year to play it safe and just go best player available, and then still be able to have all the flexibility that you talk about at the trade deadline and then next offseason where something has to happen. Jalen Duren and Jaden Ivey decisions have to be made, and Marcus Sasser becomes a free agent after next season too. So that's the year that I believe if you're Trajan, if you know we got several of our young players who we're going to have to make decisions on, I'm probably waiting until next year to go back into the second round and maybe get a couple of the people.
Yeah, Chris, the more when I think Trajan Langdon doesn't have like a guy, if that makes sense.
Okay.
How it's, as Kool-Aid was alluding to, maybe just best player available. Because these guys, Noah Penda and Rasheer Fleming, the fact that they made it to the second round, these are ballers. These are guys who don't just have like one elite skill set. These are guys who could be like really, really good in the league. So I'm kind of thinking more of Trajan Langdon thinks that at 37, you could get somebody that's damn near as good, or maybe it turns out to be better.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's what he believes, but truthfully, I feel like, at least me personally, as you do the tape on all these guys, like you don't just have that one or two prospects that you really fall in love with. Like, you can agree that they're all kind of on similar tiers, but the more you watch tape, the more you kind of and look at numbers, and again, at their level, they're talking to people and they have all this different access that we don't have. I think that at that point, you kind of fall in love with these prospects. So I'm kind of shocked. I think I would be more believing that his guy hasn't been called yet, and he thinks that his guy is still there.
No, and by like a guy, I mean somebody that you fall in love with. That's like, I will trade up to the first pick in the second round. I think he's got guys, Trajan Langdon, that he loves and that he would be happy to have. But at this stage, I just think, and I think we're going to see that happen. He's fine. He trusts that at pick 37, there's going to be some guy there that I'm very high on, or if I'm Trajan Langdon, and we'll see. Hopefully, it all works out.
No, because I do understand where Platty is coming from to a degree, and that's where I liken it to. One of the things I've gotten on the beat is the perspective, more of a perspective of the organizations and like some of the scouts are able to talk to, and then you start to understand. These people are looking at, they're scouting freaking high schoolers and freaking middle schoolers right now. And that's where I start to realize, all right, they're making these decisions based on how the cap is going to lay out over the next 10 years, realistically over the next 4 years, 5 years. And that's where I do believe if this was a season where they needed more talent, more to the rotation, I do believe they would have traded. Because I think this, what if a couple of these guys fall? What if they get a guy that they like at 37 and they know there's a chance that, we can even get a better deal where instead of giving up 3 picks for Flemings, maybe we can give up 2 picks for a shooter that we like. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. What I see Trajan doing is he's comfortable with the roster he does have, and I believe that he's trying to save his flexibility for as long as he can because next offseason is going to be crazy. I call this one the most pivotal. Next offseason, having to make real decisions about Jalen Duren and on Jaden Ivey and on Marcus Sasser.
Yes, Marcus Sasser.
That's going to be pretty insane offseason. And Tobias Harris, an expiring contract. They're going to be in the middle of a whirlwind. And you talk about continuity that he says and consistency. Next year is going to be tested for sure. So that's where I want them more, I guess, geared up with those second-round picks then. But I get you. When you look at some of these players and you really think maybe that's that diamond in the rough, I get why you would probably say you got to take them, Tracy.
Yeah, and to counter my own point, like I wouldn't be mad if you're just like, hey, you know what? I like these draft prospects, and yes, in this CBA, you know, money is tight, so you definitely want to hit there, but maybe you just want to use your seconds to get a guy at the deadline that you really like, that is a difference maker. You know, I'm not mad at that. That could definitely be the right answer. You have at that level, you have tape of them in the NBA. And you can feel a lot more comfortable than these guys that are a crapshoot. Because, look, the draft's been going on 75 years, almost 80 years. And at this point, you still see teams messing up every single year. So the draft is not like a science. So I'm not mad at him saying, you know what, why can't I just wait and get a Dennis Schroeder? Because guys like that will always be available, especially in this, like, money-conscious era we're in, where a lot of these governors are out here trying to, you know, cut the cost. Maybe that's the move. So maybe that is right. I just liked Rasheer Fleming enough to where I would have made the move.
Well, I trust me, man. We said this too. I would have personally traded up. I agree with you there.
And before we go over to Justin, the Charlotte Hornets have selected Sion James from Duke. And honestly,
it's a defensive draft.
If we're just looking at projections, this is a reach according to like the experts and where he was projected. But Sion James, I'll tell you what, he's kind of like the Lou Dort archetype. Just a tenacious perimeter defender, athletic, physical, built like a truck.
Yeah, this has been one of the themes. Remember, I told you, I've been kind of following the theme of this draft, international player. I thought NIL would rule the day. I thought it would have some effect. This has been about what people see from the international players and what they can add with their unique perspective on the game and versatility. We got to say it. They're very versatile.
Yes.
And then defense. This has been like probably the 7th or 8th pick to this point where you know it's because of what this person is as a defender. And I do wonder sometimes how much do players like Asar Thompson influence people's decisions. Look at the picks of Asar Thompson and Jalen Duren. I see a lot of those types of picks in this draft.
Absolutely. I think you're learning.
Or the archetypes.
Yes, yeah. I think you're learning that you see these teams that went 10 deep in the finals, 11 deep in the finals, and those were teams that when you have 11 guys, you have specialists. You have people that they know their role specifically. And look, Ron Holland, who we project to be much better than a specialist, was last year a specialist. He was an energy guy. Remember, I was calling for it in all the playoff games, right? Get him out there for a few minutes. Let him, especially in front of the home crowd, feed off that energy, give that momentum to the team. Like, that was his role. And, obviously you project more of him. But, yeah, I think that's what you're seeing is you're seeing teams more likely being like, okay, I can get somebody that can be situationally good because you have to have different looks. There's not one team that can win a certain way.
Hey, that dude Justin, and we also got intern Ryan. Shout out to intern Noah, man. I like the group of interns that we have here, and I think that a lot of these people are going to shed that label quickly. Intern Noah actually accompanied me to the Trajan Langdon pre-draft press conference, and has been working with me on some Q&As and writing and such. So shout out to you being in the building. Intern Ryan showed up, said he just wants to support as much as he can. He's been doing a whole lot behind the scenes. But that dude Justin, man, one of the interns originally who set the pace, man. And now you've definitely shed that label and you find yourself as one of the big dogs. Shout out to that dude, Justin. What up, though, brother?
What's good? Yo, I just want to tell you guys that, like, when I prescribe to the theory of picking in the second round, I prescribe to I'm making a swing. I'm going for a player that I think can be like a rotational piece at the least. Like, I'm looking for a player who has an elite trait that I know will translate, and it's a matter of will the rest of his game translate. And I know Kool-Aid sent me his list of players that he likes, and I love every one of them because of the fact that they all have an elite trait. Like, for me personally, if I'm looking at it from the side of Trajan Langdon, the way he likes to draft, I think a guy like Adu Thiaro really sticks out as a 6'8" Mack truck who can play really good defense. He takes the ball to the rack hard. I
think it might be Adu.
He's got to struggle in the 3-point category a little bit, but we have the shooting doctor who helped Ron Holland.
Let's just pile on the work.
What?
Let's just pile on the work for that guy. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean,
you gonna earn that money, my brother.
Their shooting coach, they're putting them to work, man.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, this is the fault of one Monty Tavares Williams. They're like, every coach will earn theirs times 10 now.
Yeah, we're squeezing every penny.
But Justin, you've still got guys like that. You mentioned Thearo, and there's still so many guys that are available right now that can just shoot the lights out.
Yeah, like Brea. That was the next person I was about to bring up was Cody Brea, 6'7" shooting guard who can shoot the lights out.
One of my guys.
49% 3-point shooter last year. Absolutely insane. And then the performance he had in March Madness where he went out and just shot the lights out and almost beat, I'm not remembering the name off the top of the team, who they're playing, but he shot the absolute lights out.
Look, Pistons are going to get a guy. You're looking at the best available left. They're going to get a specialist. They're going to have at least the ability to get one, whether it's a shooter, a defender, or one of your bigs that can get in the paint and play nasty. They're going to have the ability to do that. And this is where I'm sitting here now like, do you trade back into the second round? There's some prospects here that I really like, and the cost is not going to be that much. You see multiple shooters here. Mm-hmm. You're seeing multiple rim protectors. You're seeing multiple defenders. You're seeing multiple versatile offensive players that we do believe can become rotation level players by the end of the season. Do you take another stab at this thing in the second round? My man was like, Rasheer Fleming's or nothing.
Yeah, that one broke me. That one broke me. No, I think when it comes to the second round, it's a little different than the NFL having the bounty of rounds that the NFL has. I feel like, okay, it makes sense to, trade back from the second round into the fourth round and get this extra third round and blah, 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 however the math works. I don't see the price being worth it. I mean, because you're getting what, 1 second round pick to move up or to move back a couple spots. Like, I'd rather just take the guy, like, honestly.
And Charlotte is picking again with 34. It's about to be announced. Yeah. Ryan Kalkbrenner.
All right. So
I seen the
big guy out of Creighton, man.
I didn't want him.
That was a popular name.
Yeah, that's one that I've continued to see as we've gotten a better feel of how this draft board is shaking out. That's one that I've seen people say, you know what, maybe Ryan Kalkbrenner will be there for the Pistons. And this is one that I was hoping, man. The Creighton center, 7'1", 270 flipping pounds, man. 19.2 points per game, 8.7 rebounds, 1.5 assists. And you know what? 65.3% field goal percentage. And then you like the 3-point. The 3-point percentage has been something that he has continued to improve on year after year after year, every year in college, to the tune of 34, almost 34.5, 35% from behind the arc. So shout out to Ryan Kalkbrenner. I do believe that the Charlotte Hornets, low-key, are having a pretty decent draft.
He was... If they keep the Sion James, you got perimeter defense, and you got Ryan Kalkbrenner, who was proven to be an elite rim protector in college, and a really good inside scorer, whether it's lobs, whether it's putbacks, whether it's, drive and dish dump-offs in which he's got good hands and can finish. He's tantalizing. I do think, I don't know, he's got some weaknesses, like, let's just say, he might struggle defending like the pick and pop.
Yeah.
However, I mean, and that's a big thing in the NBA. But this is the 34th overall pick. I think he's got
every
some
second
things
rounder
that
have
could
a weakness?
really help an NBA team. I mean, Charlotte, I get it. Like they're probably going to be a dumpster fire no matter what. But he's a good player, and he was an absolute demon at Creighton for many, many years. Knows how to play the game.
Pistons 2 picks away at number 37. You got Philly on the clock right now at pick number 35, and Jay Billis is best on the board. You got Maxime Renaud.
Yeah, a lot of people like that for Detroit.
Yeah,
yes.
A lot of people like
that. I was hoping like Rasheer or Maxime, but I knew he just wasn't going to be there. So I was like, maybe we get an opportunity to get Chaz Lanier.
Yeah. He can shoot the three. He he shoots fucking threes. I'll just say that. Makes fucking threes. Kind of a paraphrase Todd McClellan, although that didn't quite work out in the end. But Dante151 with the super chat.
Shout out.
And this is actually something we could chat about for a second before it gets to the Pistons pick. I forgot to ask you guys this, but what was Joe Dumars and Troy Weaver doing last night by trading an unprotected first-round draft pick away? That was the one where they moved up to get Derek Queen, and they gave up the 23rd pick and a unprotected first round in 2026, and it's going to be the New Orleans
Look,
pick.
bro, we were in the media room last night, and like Omar Sankoff of the Free Press was like, "What is going on?" Like we were like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
There were some moves last night, several draft picks and some moves where I was just like, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, do you realize your team is dysfunctional? I guess going ahead and do that. So yeah, there was a couple things last night that was just like that, man.
I think Joe, all respect to the legend, I think he kind of just woke up. Like I think he took a nap or something and missed like the last couple years, because you don't put that hefty of a price, because you see it all the time. God forbid you have one of those seasons from hell. You should know that, being the GM of New Orleans. Like you should know your team had the season of hell last year. So I wouldn't make that move personally, but hey, where you guys at with this board though? You got a lot of guard shooters. You got a lot of shooting available. A guy like Alex Tui is a guy that that isn't a shooter, but a lot of people like him as well. But you're looking at, you got a couple shooting bigs. You got some drafted stash options plus Renard, like we talked about, and then you got some of the guards that we mentioned, Lanier, Barea. Like, where are you guys going at? Because it seems like you guys were all kind of on board with getting a front court piece, because I think we can all identify that is the spot in our rotation you need, specifically a 4.
Yeah, I'm for Maxime Renard. I'm going to be kind of consistent with that. He's still on the board. And then, there's a couple other players there. If you don't get him, then I am looking at some of your shooters like Chaz Lanier from Tennessee. You're looking at Kobe Brea. You're looking at Anton's guy, Jackson Money from North Dakota, even though it's against, some people question maybe who did he play against. I am one of the ones who believe that type of three-point shooting translates. When you're shooting 40% on high volume, catch and shoot, on the move, off the dribble, hand in the face, and you're dotting every I, that's the type of stuff that you can believe in will at least translate, especially when you got a guy like Cade Cunningham who all the gravity is going to absorb to him. So those shooters, to me, they are looking more attractive right now, especially with Maxime being probably everybody's number one left, best available right now.
Jay Billis has him number 1 on the big board, but also another name we haven't mentioned, Tyrese Proctor, also can shoot the lights out, was at Duke, was a very high recruit, never quite lived up to that status. But
right there on the screen.
But when better players get recruited, like the Con Knipples and the Cooper Flags of the world, your role is going to be diminished, and he still played a big role in Duke's Final Four team. He's another one available, but I'll tell you what, I feel like Maxime Renard would just lead to a celebration throughout the Woodward Sports Sphere and this show, Wake Up Woodward tomorrow. And I'm not rooting for it just for the celebration, but he's a 7'1" who can shoot threes, very versatile, was great at Stanford. He was like a 20-11 guy at Stanford.
There was a time where people thought he might go ahead of Danny Wolf.
Yes.
And that's the thing. It's like, to see how this thing is flipped, I would have traded up for either one of those guys. If you can get them at 37, I'll put some victory shades on tomorrow.
That's
well, we got him anyway for another team in the city.
Yeah.
I like
Shout out. More on that tomorrow morning.
But you know what? You brought up a good point with Cade Cunningham. And
I need to be surprised, Ryan. I know you know.
Don't be Maxime. Don't be Maxime. Come on, Philadelphia.
Their pick is in.
I see Ryan. He's over there.
Yeah.
Janai
Broom!
Hey!
Janai Broom!
Brooklyn.
You don't need Maxime, Brooklyn.
Wait, was it Philly?
No. I know.
Philly.
Brooklyn's next. So
Yeah,
I'm just
Brooklyn's
saying.
next,
You
yeah.
don't need Maxime.
Okay, yeah. Oh, no. You got Danny Wolf already.
Yes, you don't need
Come
Maxime.
on.
Oh, my
Dude,
God.
He's going to fall.
I got to go to intern Rhino. Do you got your mic on?
Yeah, I do.
Hey, what up, though, man? I know you've been trying to tap in all day.
I'm just happy that John
sure.
Broom will not be a Piston.
Shout out to Willie B.
I'm sorry, Willie B. I hope if you're listening, I hope I can see you tomorrow and talk about this. But no, I don't like John Broom. I think he's slow. I get it. He had a great college career. He had a fantastic year. Overcame an injury against Michigan State. Got him to the Final Four. I get it. Dude's tough. But I think Justin made the comparison today about He's like Luka Garza. He's just slow. He can't move. Great college player, but in the NBA, I don't think it translates. And I'm just happy that John Broome is not a Piston. That's all I got to say.
Luka Garza is gonna be better than him, man.
Let me talk my ish. Imagine Nikola Jokic being guarded by John Broome. Okay.
Cooked.
Like, literally, Jokic would put up 60, 30, and 20 on that man. Yeah. That man has a smaller vertical than Jokic. John Broome is so bad. He is a weight bully. He is a 4-year college bully. He is not as good as all you think he is. He is going to be a bust. He's going to suck, and you guys can eat shit because he shouldn't be a Piston, and you're going to be glad about that pick in the next couple of years, and you will thank everyone in this room for telling you that he sucks.
Hey, that dude, Justin, can we get a couple VMix links? Because we do got to get one to Willie B, and we're going to get one to Anton. He does want to be able to VMix in or call in if he can.
I got you.
When the Pistons select. But we got to get Willie B in for at least like 2 minutes so he could talk about John Broome, man.
Yeah.
Sadly, his Pistons won't be able to select him.
I mean, and I know, Justin, you rightfully took your victory lap there, and I didn't want him either. Great college player, respect to him.
He will not be haunting the city.
It looks like Minnesota's getting in.
Whoa,
Okay.
Minnesota with Brooklyn.
Minnesota's getting in.
They're going to take Maxime.
But yeah, it's the.
Nas,
that's right.
Oh, because they traded.
A Nas Reed replacement. Is that what they're?
That's what I forgot. They traded.
This is interesting.
Okay.
Okay, so
they
there's a lot of stakes in this one.
I'll tell you, if they take Max or not, I think that means that they're trying to play hardball with Nas Reed and his contract. I think that's
They're going to take him because the
now
Pistons are over there like, hey,
now
Nas.
You just presented the pathway, so now it's going to happen.
Yeah, especially because the Pistons.
And Ryan, no facial expressions or anything.
Yeah.
Have a poker face.
Like duck behind, duck down, bro.
I'll turn the mic off and everything, and I'll just keep it poker face.
Don't even look at the draft.
We got Summer in the building too. Shout out to Summer. All right, man. Hopefully this is the pick that we want the Brooklyn Nets to make, and it's not Maxime.
Yeah. I'm really hoping so too. But you know what? If it's not, I'm fine. I'm fine too. I like Mirakovic. Like, I like him as a drafting stash. I know that's got to be a drafting stash, and that's not a sexy thing to do. But you know what? I mean, that's a guy that a couple years down the line could really end up contributing for you, because shooting bigs are not going to go out of style anytime soon. So I'm in no rush to bring him
over. And it cannot be. They could pass on Maxime here, and the Pistons could say, you know what, we're still looking at something different. Because I wonder, it's going to be interesting to see Trajan's vision as it relates to best player available. Because you asked, what does that mean? Yeah. We're one pick away from finding out. All Brooklyn is walking to the podium.
I sent you the VMix link to send to the two Kool-Aid on Slack.
All right, let's see. So Brooklyn is selecting.
A dude.
Oh, to the Lakers.
To the Lakers.
It's to the Lakers now.
The Lakers.
Okay.
Wow. How do you feel about that, Justin? I see you over there. He's grimacing. One pick.
Yeah.
One pick before
I was
the
going to
Pistons.
say somebody in here that was their guy.
That might have been the Trajan guy though. I wonder if that's the Trajan guy, because the more and more you were talking about, I was like, you know what? I looked at these guys. I said, I wonder if that's gonna be their pick.
Yeah. I mean, he's clearly not afraid of people who can't shoot. So
no, and that was what I was wondering. Is somebody like Adu Tiero, is he a little redundant with Ron Holland and Asar Thompson?
And that's why you saw that I liked Rasheer Fleming so much, and why I didn't want I like Lanier and Barea and all these guards that you can get, but I feel like you can also get those guys on the market pretty easily, get a location shooters. So
the Lakers only sent 45 in cash to the T-Wolves.
I mean, he's going to help them.
You could have done 37 in 1 second
and we know
got Rasheer Fleming, and we'd have been out of here. We'd have been asleep.
And that's why I do believe they are a potential trade back in candidate. But I do know this. I do know this. The Pistons are in a position to where the undrafted free agent market, I think that's going to be very, very good as well. So it's going to be I think this is going to be a very, very intriguing draft by the scouting department, because they don't have the first round draft pick. Are you able to muster anything out of this draft? Mm-hmm. Right now they have a really great chance to do so when you look at the way this board is falling.
So are you guys all just Maxime? Is that where?
I'm looking Chaz
or bust.
Not a bust. You're looking at there being several different players still available that you're like, you know what, you can see the vision. These guys, like Justin said, like we said earlier, they're specialists, man. They're specialists. You're gonna get a defender. You're gonna get a 3-point shooter. You're gonna get somebody that can play, I believe, rotation minutes when called upon. That's what I believe the Pistons are in right now with this 37 pick.
Do you think Okay. I mean, obviously it depends on who they select because everybody has their different opinions on different players. But do you honestly expect this person that they select to contribute this season, or do you think that that is going to be filled via free agency, trade, or Bobby Klitman, who is another guy who I think is probably a year ahead? Like I expect them to take somebody like that.
Well, like I said, depends
somebody that
on,
might be a year or two of developing, and then really get somebody.
The pick is already in.
Yeah. Before regular,
so they had their guy. They didn't even wait.
Yeah, before regular. Oh, and they went to commercial. So
hey, this is a good sign.
But before,
if they get drafted during a commercial break, that's good. Jokic got drafted during a commercial break.
That's exactly the comparison I was about to say.
Second time I'm going to mention that, probably 2 more times.
But for me, it's not necessarily about if you get a regular rotation player, but if you can get a person that you know when we need this individual to step up, if we run into some type of injuries, is this a player that we can depend on? If we have a guy that just needs a night off. And that's why I do mention guys like Dennis Jenkins and Bobby Klitman, who there aren't Pistons fans out there who expected anything from those guys. A lot of people was like, Dennis, who? And everybody was just salivating over the potential of Bobby Klitman. 4-year guaranteed deal. People were like, oh, they must really like him. And then who wound up actually being the guy who gave the Pistons some really good run down the end of the season? Dennis Jenkins. So do I believe that from that standpoint, they're going to get a player who can start to scratch the surface just a little bit, get their feet wet, while still being able to contribute with their skills? I think that this bodes very well for a young player who's still looking to develop, because now you get the opportunity to just play them to their skill set, and you're putting them with veteran players who are going to perform. You're putting them with Cade Cunningham and some young players who are going to perform. And so I think it's a more healthy situation for these guys this year.
Yeah, because, I mean, that's why I like that you guys have pointed out, and I'm on the same page. Second round, I think Justin was the one that brought it up. You get somebody that is elite when it comes to the skill set. Like, have something elite, because you know what? You have Cade Cunningham. And when you have a guy like Cade Cunningham, you don't have to be an all-around player. You don't have to be a shot creator. So
I was going to say this. As much as I like Dalton Connect, I'm looking at shooters in this draft who can shoot the freaking lights out. And I just don't even remember it.
Oh, it's during a commercial, baby. Next Jokic.
Yep.
Let's see.
This man's going to win 2 MVPs.
Who you guys think it is? Shooter, front court? Who do you think it is?
What is it?
Come on, Ryan. No. Chill out, Ryan.
Chaz Lanier.
Okay. Let's go. Yeah. That was one of my guys. I was like, you know what? If they go that route, I can be okay with it. But some people believe he's the Beasley replacement.
I mean,
that's what I've heard. Everyone in the chat, everybody through some of the content. And when you look at him, 6'4", 6'5"-ish, 200 pounds out of Tennessee, 18 points a game, 3.9 rebounds, 1.1 assists, 43% field goal percentage. But this is where it gets interesting. You look at the three-point percentage, and he has shot respectively over the last 3 years, 40%, 44%, 39.1% from the floor. This is a guy that can shoot the lights out. And that's what I said. We're going to get a specialist.
Yeah.
I think that they got one.
Yeah, I mean, look, to me, it's got to be somebody that's diverse, right? Like somebody that can shoot from different areas and not themselves off the dribble. Like if you can move and locate and do the things that Beasley did, Cade Cunningham, one of the top 3 playmakers in the league, is going to find.
He moves off the ball and he just shoots effing threes. I mean, I'm not saying that that's all he does, but more than half of his attempts are from the 3. He shoots it very well on extremely high volume. He was very, very
off
productive.
Dribble. On the move, off picks.
That's going to be key, because that man can move without the ball, and as long as some guys can set some good screens for him, he will find his way open. And again, I'm not saying that he's going to step right in day one and be like the Beasley replacement or anything like that, but just Chaz Lanier is the Beasley archetype, that small-ish shooting guard who still finds a way to get open and just shoots a lot of threes and makes them at a very high clip.
And he finishes in the paint well, too. So a player who – If you got that ratchet, you know what else you got? The ability to pump fake, the hezzy on them, and they're going to over-respond and overreact. It gives you the opportunity to now get into the paint and have the ability to finish. You can see this guy can get to the rack, and he can finish strong amongst the best of them. So that's one thing that I definitely like about Chaz.
I saw it. Weezy threw a 3. Yes, sir. Let's pack Malik Beasley up.
What? Oh, come on. Hey, JB Smooth is pissed right now. You see our group text?
What'd he say?
He's pissed right now. He said, bro, Renard was right there. What the F?
It's okay.
Trust me.
It's okay, JB.
Listen, I've already had to do this with Platty. Trust me. Old me is probably like, why didn't they trade up? Why didn't they this? I wanted Maxime. I really did.
Yeah.
But I also knew that one of these players is going to play a very integral role for them. And, I'm seeing some of these other group chats and such. People are thinking Tim Hardaway Jr. is gone. I don't think that this spells the end of one of our vets. I think that this means we have more shooters. Flannel Sam has done a really good job this playoffs at highlighting the help that other people have, the shooting that other people have. There's multiple guys. You don't replace your 2 shooters and say, oh, great, we got 2 shooters again. You want more shooters. And if there's a young player, let this guy kind of learn.
Yeah, no, I've never seen a team that just says, no, all right, we got enough shooting. We're good.
Yeah.
We're good here. We're good here.
I like this
Can we get
selection,
somebody that boxes out? Like, you're not going to do that.
You asked, are they going to get a guy who's going to really play? His skill set allows him to play.
And he's
right away.
Refined. I mean, I get it. He transferred to Tennessee his last year and played better there than he had at any other stop in his career. But he's a grown man. He's not a kid. He's in his, I think he's 22, 23, and he was very productive. And he has a skill. He has an elite skill, and that's one of the things you want to try to get in the second round with somebody who it's low risk. If he pans out, great. If he becomes even 90% of Malik Beasley someday, great. But if he doesn't, fine. But I think 3-point shooting, it's not something you just lose.
Yes.
He's going to be valuable in some capacity.
He's going to be valuable in some capacity. And you look at some of the players still here, and sometimes you just wonder, do they trade back into the second round now? But to kind of get more into Chaz Lanier, the fit on this team, I think that that's where we go instantly is this a guy that you see more along the lines of a Bobby Clintman, more along the lines of a Dennis Jenkins, or maybe just a little bit better? Because trust me, as much as I like the prospects of Jenkins and Bobby Clintman, I believed, and I do believe right now that the Pistons have a better prospect. A guy that's going to be able to come in and play completely off the gravity of not just a Cade Cunningham, but you've seen some of these other players be able to step into a lot more as it relates to handling the rock and facilitating. This is where a guy like Asar Thompson, I believe that this helps a person like him tremendously, who they say is stepping into more ball handling, facilitating, shot creation, which means they're looking to get him more on the run. And I saw a lot of people, they were posting, the graphics and the pictures and such of Kawhi Leonard. They think that, Trajan Langdon and Co are trying to create baby Kawhi out of Asar. But when you have more shooters, I believe that players like Asar Thompson, players like Cade Cunningham, they get to excel so much better because they're elite at facilitating and finding their teammates. And guess what? Their one-on-one ability, there's not too many people who could stay with them or stay in front of them. Asar Thompson is shifty as hell. I actually think he might be the shiftiest ball handler on the team. I really do. Cade Cunningham is dope, but I like the pick.
Yeah. I mean, look, you can't not like the pick. 3 guys from that same draft class. Robinson, to me, I really, really like this guy. I think he's someone that's going to be very, very impactful in the NBA. He's going to be able to find a home, no problem. So
you know what I like too?
Robinson?
I like his intermediate game too.
Progressive comparison.
Because he knows how to play in the pick and roll. I like his intermediate game. I like his ability to play in the pick and roll. So yes, we're going to instantly like the shooting. But who is this guy after? A lot of the things that drew me to Dalton Connect was his ruggedness on defense. Whether he was a plus defender or not, I like the ruggedness. I like the fact that he wanted to chirp and talk. He was one of those guys that you see, he got the marks all over his arm, so he's getting physical. So beyond just being a shooter, I like the dog mentality. Then you see he has a little bit of handle. He can get into the rim, he can get into the paint, and he can shoot in the mid-range off of the one dribble or off the pick and roll, pick and pop. Those are some of the things that Chaz Lanier does have. And you're talking about this with the Pistons. Now this is where step 2 begins. What's your development staff going to do? Are you just resting your laurels to just say, hey, we got a pretty good value in the second round? Or are you saying, how far can we push this specialist to be one of those players that people are talking about? Hey, second round pick, but that guy was definitely should have been a first rounder.
I think it's the guy I just mentioned in Duncan Robinson, right? Like a guy that reinvented his game because or added to his game dramatically in the fact of that 2-man game with Bam. Like, he's not necessarily a shot creator. He just knows how to do handoffs and run good routes, and that gets him a lot of points. And that is a guy that is a valuable role player, has played in the finals. Like, again, I'm looking at this team through the prism of every player that we bring in this building. Can they play high-level basketball? Can they play high-stakes basketball? Because that is where the Pistons' goal ultimately is.
And you see my 1 and 2 there, right? You see the thumbnail for tonight. It was Renard and Chaz Lanier. Y'all need to know. Those are my 1-2. I was like, let's hope for it. I was like, let me put the mojo out there. I was like, am I jinxing myself by putting it on here? But you know what? Maybe because I did have Rasheed Fleming's on here too. I took him off, and then literally I saw the news of the trade. So I was like, dang it. Left these guys on here, and we got one of them. So shout out to Trajan Langdon and his staff. You know what? Sadly, they didn't get more work for Fred Vinson.
Yeah, they did. They did. Fred Vinson sit back like cracking the cold one probably. He's like, all right. I only got like 5 shooters to take care of. I only got like 5 people that I got to develop, and some of them being historically bad shooters. But
I'm going to put some people on the spot over there. I already told you guys about intern Noah. You guys know summertime. We just talking Pistons in general. If you want to talk even in depth about Chaz Lanier, his skill set, how you think he's going to contribute. Comps of your own. Talk to me. What up, though, intern Noah?
We talked about this a few hours ago.
We just talked about this.
I just said I liked him a lot. I was kind of convincing myself that I liked him more than Reynaud, but I might. I don't know, man. Reynaud feels like the one that got away. But
we all have those.
With Chaz Lanier, he kind of reminds me of. I see people in the chat like saying, we've already got Ivy, we've already got Beasley. I think in 2 years when he's ready to be on the team and get significant-ish minutes, I think he's gonna be kind of like who's Isaiah Joe from OKC, where he just kind of comes in, plays like 15 minutes a game, jacks up the 3-ball, shoots 45% from beyond the arc. I think he's gonna be a lot like that. I like the pick. I think we talked a lot on Wake Up Woodward about Cade's usage rate. I think he's one of those guys that can kind of potentially bring it down if he's as good of a spot-up shooter off the
Talk to me, Noah.
As we think he is. I think I like the pick. I think he's a great technician guy from the three, so I'm all for him.
Hey, I like hearing that too. And you talk about this team. At some point in time, you need some young prospects in your system. So we're not sitting here like we got to retain all of our vets, all of them, because there are only 3-point shooters. So I like this. This is a sneaky good pick. This is one that if they would have made a similar type pick in the first round, I think we'd have been okay with this. But what up though, summertime? Summertime in the building. Pistons. I know that you want Malik Beasley, and I would to return as a Piston. I would assume you want all of the shooting. You want all of it, not just a couple. And then hey, you know what? We're good to go. But you want all the shooting. Talk to me, Summer.
No, I really do want to keep everybody, but I think this is a great pick for us. I mean, Chaz Lanier, he can shoot the ball, as you guys already said. And I mean, off the dribble, on the spot, off pick and rolls, like he can shoot the ball. So I think this is great, and I think he's going to fit really good into the Detroit Pistons squad. So I love it.
Hey, shout out. I think we all love it. And I see Dante151 in the chat and something that you said, Noah. Just a couple of comps. Dante151 with a super chat. Thank you very much. Bleacher Report comp Chaz Lanier to Alec Burks.
I don't hate that at all.
I don't hate that either.
I don't hate that at all. I know people will think Pistons Alec Burks, but even that one, I was like, how about Alec Burks is still going out there and getting Sunday rec league buckets?
Yep.
If you guys know Alec Burks, that guy is one of those. We said this earlier. No, watch the shooters. When he was pulling up, it doesn't matter if you're defending. It doesn't matter. But if you know he's wide open, even it's like, oh my gosh, just start running back down the court. If we're getting that, if that's the comp. I like that one.
Yeah, again, this is a guy that could very well next year be an innings eater like I talked about. This could be a guy that could come in. To me, the Chaz Lanier thing hinges on what can he do off the bounce. Because I have a lot of confidence watching the tape in his ability to shoot and to shoot off movement and to find open spaces, all of those things that shooters need to have. I think he has those traits. The one thing is, can you do, like I said, the Duncan Robinson tape where you run that two-man game back and forth with the big, Jalen Duren or whoever, and you're just kind of maneuvering, bobbing, weaving, and just kind of snaking around those picks, and then getting some mid-range buckets or getting some three-point shots. Like I think that to me is the key. What can you do off the bounce? If you can do anything off the bounce, this is a guy now that you're talking about is a regular rotation player. I think. I think that keeps him in the rotation regularly. I think he could be in the rotation without it, but I think if you add that element, you're talking about a guy that is for sure rotation, maybe even a starter.
Well, in
quality player.
Speaking of the rotation, I wanted to Noah comped Chaz Lanier to Isaiah Joe. And I thought that was very, very interesting because don't let this playoff run fool you where he was kind of in and out of the rotation. In the regular season for the Thunder, he was
a guy.
Imperative for this team.
Yeah.
He's kind of like a minutes eater, but the best version of that because he still shot the ball well from three, played good defense, and he gave you over 10 points a game, 74 games, 16 starts. I could definitely see that as a Chaz Lanier type archetype on a really good team, like an Isaiah Joe.
And again, I think the big takeaway from this is that you have the sound structure in this organization to believe that you can develop these guys. Whereas I think before we were talking about guys, everyone you drafted as like, okay, can this be our guy? Can this be a guy? But now you have confidence that, look, you have a superstar in Cade Cunningham. You have a great coaching staff. You really just have to plug and play and fit. And a guy like Chaz Lanier, I think, can fit pretty seamlessly. So I think he's going to be
very seamless.
I think he's going to be somebody that is, look, I now like 6 guards on this roster, assuming you bring back the 2 that are free agents. I like 6 guards, and I love that. I love that because that means, like down the stretch, we can load manage Cade, and I'm cool with the night where it's Ivy, Schroeder, Sasser, and Chaz Lanier.
And more shooters helps a guy like Ivy. You hear Trajan Langdon say things like Jaden Ivey and Isaiah Stewart will be ready for training camp. And when you're talking about young bigs, too, Jalen Duren, as much as we talk about certain aspects of what the gravity does and doesn't do to have shooters for Cade Cunningham, I do believe having more shooters helps a guy like Jalen Duren, who we saw turn into what? Point Duren. He was a guy, you could throw the ball to at the hub, and whether it was kind of just him instantly throwing the right or correct pass, making the one dribble bounce, throwing a little action down, like dribble drive into the paint, and then finding the right pass or right read out on the perimeter. This is things where I'm looking at guys like Ivy and Duren, who we're going to have to make some probably pricey decisions on over the next offseason. I do believe that picks like this and players like this continue to help further development of the young players. They need that space.
Absolutely.
So, Justin, what up, though, brother?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on Chaz Lanier for a second. I think the one thing that we're glossing over a little bit is he's a very good defender. Like, he can sit there.
6'9" wingspan.
Yeah, 6'9" wingspan. He was Tennessee's second best perimeter defender last year behind Ziegler. He can guard 1 through 3 essentially, and he's athletic. And like you said, he is a true 3-and-D shooting guard, and he's going to add a lot of versatility to this lineup. And that's what I love about this pick is this is a swing. You are swinging for a hopefully 3-point specialist who's good at playing defense, and that's what you got to ask for in a second-round pick.
Yeah, I think. And you know what? I'm glad you brought up the athleticism and the defense is because you have to be athletic to play for this Piston team. The way this Piston team, that was the one thing that I wish I would have brought up earlier in this draft, and that was one of my notes of why I liked Fleming so much for Detroit is that this is a team that plays fast, and they encourage a system where they have multiple ball handlers. You have guys like Asar, Duren, Ivy, Cade pushing the ball constantly, trying to get those quick transition buckets. And I think that is something that fits Chaz Lanier's game. And I think you just have I couldn't see Trajan drafting somebody who's a stiff when you have all these athletes on this roster. It's clearly a type of his, I think.
Chaz Lanier is far from a stiff.
Yeah, I was just saying this too. And Chaz Lanier is the son of NBA Hall of Famer, late NBA Hall of Famer Bob Lanier. If you guys might know that name.
Yes,
that's a familiar name here, former Detroit Piston.
Last number one pick
out.
before Cade Cunningham. Or that was the only 2 number 1 picks in Detroit Piston history.
Yeah, so that's definitely another one. The Detroit Pistons is not just that they're able to go and kind of get some culture, but they're able to also go and get a player who I'm glad that Justin talked about it. I was going to bring up the defensive side too. Like, all right, we know he's a shooter, and we know we can do a little bit more than just shoot. But when you look at the defensive side of the ball, I think that's a great segue that Justin, based on Justin's points, the defender that he is. The fact that this is a guy that does try. He wants to be. When I look at his highlights and such, he's a guy that you could tell wants to be a good defender. He wants to be known as a good 3-and-D type player. And that, to me, is what's really starting to make me more and more excited about the pick of Chaz Lanier. On the defensive side, you got a guy who we're not just looking at as a specialist on one end of the floor. We're looking at a guy who I believe can help you out on both ends, which is a little bit different than the other wings that we have. Yes. No matter how much we like an Asar Thompson, We understand that in his offensive development, even Trajan Lane said there are some things that they're hoping he can improve on. With a Chaz Lanier, not that he's going to have necessarily the impact or effect of an Asar Thompson overall, but I do like the fact that I know on both ends of the court, he's going to give you something from behind the arc on one end. Give another target to guys like Cade and Asar, who I'm looking at Asar stepping into that secondary ball handler facilitator role on court with Cade Cunningham. I'm looking for more of that type of stuff. And this is where, when you're talking about defensively, I'm hoping that he's good enough to where it doesn't have to always be like, Asar Thompson and Ron Holland.
Yes.
I'm hoping that he's one of those guys, too, that when he's in there, they know it's not just barbecue chicken at the wing.
Yes. Yeah. You want a guy that's not going to get picked on.
Yeah.
Effectively
that's
what you want. That's what you want. Yeah. I agree 100% with you, man. I am excited with this pick, and again, I'm not saying that this spells the end for Beasley or Schroeder because I don't expect this guy to play much basketball for the Pistons this year. I think if he does, I think that's either a really good thing or a really bad thing. I don't think that that's something you necessarily want out of him. I think if he's playing, that means either A, you have some injuries, or B, you absolutely knocked it out the park, and this guy is ready right away. So I'm happy with the pick. I think it just leaves, it leaves a very obvious hole in free agency, a hole in this roster heading into free agency, I should say. At the bigs.
Does that transition at all into the Swisher break questions, or or did you want to save that for a minute?
Man, you know what? Some of the Swisher break questions we have was about the construction of this team. They fit more after the effectively after the. Hey, shout out to that dude, Justin.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate you, brothers.
Absolute warrior.
Hey, man, they're getting the food divvied up for the people. And shout out to our delivery driver, too, man. She walked right into the studio and delivered it. Usually, they just sit right there and wait for us to come. She was like, no, coming on in. I'm like, hey, dope. Welcome to the studio. So,
absolutely.
All the hard work, man. There's a lot of people here who are doing a lot of good things, and I'm glad to be here with you guys. So, Weezy313 said, y'all heard that right. He wants Asar to be the secondary ball handler. Kool-Aid out on Ivy. No, I am not out on Ivy. I think that Ivy is I think Ivy is even better when Ivy can be a guy that Asar can pass to. Asar attracts some gravity, give it to Ivy on the wing, Ivy downhill. But it's interchangeable. Ivy took the necessary steps forward as a facilitator, and trust me, I'm as close to an Ivy bro without being an Ivy bro as you're going to get. I have been consistent. I want to see him start with Cade. I believe that they're the backcourt of the future. But Asar Thompson is supposed to be that point forward, and I believe that bodes better. Asar Thompson coming down the floor with the ball with Cade on one wing and Ivy on one wing is actually better outlook for your three-point shooting than if it was Cade or Ivy down the middle every single time.
I think Ivy is a great player and has potential to be a great player when it comes to operating an offense and running it and doing pick and rolls and all of the John Morant, Russell Westbrook, John Wall, whatever kind of comps you want to throw at him, those super athletic guards. But I also think his best strength is just flat out attacking closeouts. And I think that doing that, you are often the guy that is receiving the ball. You're not the guy initiating.
Now, Matt Ishbia is doing things we were hoping the Pistons would do. He trades back in Kobe Bryant to Phoenix Suns.
How are the Suns trading?
That's what I'm saying.
What do they have that people want?
I'm hoping Trajan sees that too, but I believe
they only want Devin Booker. Like, what else can you trade? Like, what else can you trade? I genuinely don't get how the Phoenix Suns are trading. They're just like swapping picks, and they're like, they have picks that are like, yeah, we're getting out of these four teams, we're taking the worst pick. It's like, dude, how is this even possible? I don't understand it, man. I guess credit to them for trying something and being aggressive, but I mean, that's second apron stuff though, because you can't, once you're second apron, you can only re-sign players or you can only sign players for the minimum or re-sign your own guys, and that's it.
Yeah, so, definitely. I see DNC
that's a repercussion.
Yeah, and DNC ENT in the chat says, Bleacher Report just gave the Pistons an A grade. No question, Chaz Lanier will have a long NBA career. Shout out, man. For the Pistons to be able to get a player in the second round at pick 37 and to have national media and to have some people on the outside say, you know what, Pistons got themselves a player who's going to have a long NBA career. That to me says, we talk about, is this going to be a rotation player? Does the second round matter? Second round picks up. Maybe the Pistons got one of those guys that for years to come, when they say, look, second rounders matter, look at Chaz Lanier.
Well, and the thing that we haven't even mentioned yet about Chaz Lanier, and Justin, I know you're even more of a college basketball sicko than I am. Chaz Lanier, I mean, this this past season's SEC was maybe the most dominant college basketball conference in a single season ever.
No doubt.
And Chaz Lanier went through that and put up the numbers and had the production that he did. And that means something to me. He went up against the greatest competition in the sport, night in, night out, and showed out.
Yeah, and Chaz Lanier is the cousin to the late Bob Lanier. I'm sorry, just to correct that. He's the cousin to the late Bob Lanier. So
I was going to say,
still in the bloodline.
Son at the age of Bob Lanier's.
Yeah. Just want to make sure I corrected that.
Yes, salute. But, no, I think you got to be happy with this pick because that's just a player that just flat out translates. His game translates very easily. You don't have to find a role for him. He has a role day one, and then it's everything we've talked about, if you notice, is like an expansion of a role. Like, we all see that day one, this guy can't come in as long as he can shoot and play basketball for this team right away. So for that, it's about how do you get to that next level and become like a really, really important piece of a team. Be an Isaiah Joe. Be one of these guys. I love that point that Noah brought up. So shout out to him for that.
This draft is fun. Oh, so Sacramento Kings got Maxime.
So good value.
I'm trying to think who's their front court right now. Oh,
See you, Sabonis.
Sabonis replacement. No, but I have heard that he's kind of available. And I know you talked about it. Yeah, I didn't get your thoughts on that. I didn't know if you were very pro mortgage the future for Sabonis or not.
I definitely. It depends on what you mean by mortgage the future.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to cost you a pretty penny for a guy like that.
Yeah, it's going to cost you a pretty penny, but it depends on what you consider your future. Are the first round draft picks, are those the players that, if you're talking about what you can put next to Cade right now, if you can get rid of those first round draft picks, maybe a couple of your young players, that is something that is very, very attractive to me, especially if you have control of Sabonis for some time to be able to pair with a Cade Cunningham.
Well, and
I'm actually intrigued by that.
And that's the thing. Do you guys consider multiple firsts, Tobias Harris, and one of the young players that we really like? Do we consider shopping that or potentially giving that up, mortgaging the future? Because I don't. Or going all in. No, I don't.
I don't either. I mean, I guess it would really depend, though, on who's the one young guy you're giving up.
Sure.
Because if you're giving up Asar, like, you gotta, you know what I mean? Like, that's my guy.
Asar is as close to untouchable to me as you can be. He's not completely untouchable, but he's more untouchable than the others, to me.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly with that. I'm just saying, hypothetically, are we giving up Holland? Are you giving up Dern? Are you giving up, Sass? Because I like these trade packages that fans will throw out. It's just like Sasser and a bunch of picks. He's a young guy. It's like, but that's not getting the juices flowing for anything.
Sasser and a bunch of picks for Giannis. Bring him up.
And I like this. Stephen David, he says, I have no problem with us taking the best shooter available. My friend who watches Tennessee b-ball religiously, I like this. Called him their connect of last season.
Yeah.
On defense, going to help you guard the 2 and the 3. So hopefully that I'm going to restart because I believe I was muted. So I love Lanier. I love the pick. He played that connect role perfectly last year. He was everything that connect was for Tennessee and was a better defender, 6'9" wingspan. He really brings a lot of versatility to this Pistons backcourt where he can play the 2, he can play the 3. You can go small, you can play big, depending on where you want to put him. So I really like this pick. I think that in terms of swinging for the fences, you swung for the fences on a guy who is honestly elite at 2 different aspects.
So, Justin, are you saying that you believe that Chaz Lanier is going to be better in the NBA than Dalton Knecht, who was a first-round pick who had some success with the Lakers? Because if you're saying that, that's pretty exciting.
I do believe so. I do think so. I think that as a prospect offensively, Knecht is better, but I think that his ceiling is very tapped with how athletic he is. He's not very athletic compared to Lanier, who has the capabilities to guard 1 through 3, has the capability to shoot the lights out just like Connected. And at the same time, it fits next to Cade better because he's not going to be asked to have the ball in his hands. He's going to be asked to be a spot-up shooter. He's going to be asked to run off screens. So I think that this is a perfect pick for the Pistons. I love the swing. I think it's the exact type of player that we needed to go after, and I love the pick. I think that A grade by Bleacher Report is a very fair grade.
I love this kumbaya that we're having over that.
Oh, yeah.
It's very, very rare. Very rare. But that's
very rare that we're all just in here like,
I think it's the pick. That's the thing.
Good.
But we knew this coming in. Did we have our favorites? Did we have the guys that we like, yo, can you go be aggressive? But Trajan Langdon's a guy who we're going to figure out a lot more of his pulse and his temperament and how he chooses to move forward.
Right.
And if he has a plan that he believes in. The one thing I love about Brad Holmes and Scott Harris is these guys have plans. They literally are very, very transparent with those things, and then you see them go out there and execute it and stay true to it. And with Trajan Langdon, he said we're going to take best player available, which I knew. Even though I wanted them to be aggressive, I knew that means they're staying put. They're just going to stay put, and they believe that they can get their guy there. And we knew coming into this, there are 10 to 15 guys on this board, concentratedly, at least 7 to 8 guys on this draft board still left that we knew could contribute to this Detroit Pistons team and have a real positive impact in year one. And so I feel like this is, especially thinking about last year's draft to this year, I think that we're understanding more or less the mindset of a Trajan. Because think about this. Ron Holland being the pick, we all thought one thing. They need the shooter, they need the shooter, they need the shooter. Yes. He came in and said, I want somebody who got attitude. I want somebody who's willing to literally put the dukes up. I still think about Jordan Clarkson, like my man wasn't even trying to fight. Ron Holland just goes up to him like it's scuffed, like, you know, all the stuff going on the court with B-Ball Paul, I believe. Ron Holland just goes over to Jordan Clarkson and just like, I'm just like, bro, what are you doing?
Ready to squabble up he was ready to squabble up.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, he went and he got one of those guys, and you start to realize you need multiple A-holes on your team. We only had Stu. Now we got Stu and Ron Holland. And then what do you see? Now everybody want to be, oh, yeah, we the dog pound now and things. And I get it, Duran and Stu. But when you get those types of guys, that's why I'm like, you know what, Trajan, he has a unique eye with how he's going out there and putting together this team. Because, yes, you want to go out there and get your best players available. How does this talent mesh? How does it fit? And how does their heart beat? And that's what I appreciated out of the Ron Holland and the Dennis Jenkins selections. Both those players, obviously Ron Holland more than Dennis played some really crucial roles for this team last year in minutes. But looking at this year, it makes me that much more excited for Chaz Lanier, because I do believe that Trajan's type is he wants more of those kind of gritty, grungy guys on the defensive side of the ball too, not just the shooting aspect, which we know he values too, because he did bring in a Fred Vincent. So
excuse me. I love what you're saying. I love what you're saying. I think this is just a home run pick. It's one of those picks that you can absolutely be happy with. Now, I'll say this. You know, we have other players on the board. Are you at all entertaining getting back into this draft, or are you just like, hey, I'm good with this. Let's turn our focus to free agency.
I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm fine.
I'm good too.
I'm not. Yeah. That's,
I'm good too.
Yeah.
If I would have took like more of a project, like if I would have took Mirakovic, who might not come to the NBA right away.
Yeah.
Then I'd be like, okay, yeah, let's jump in, try and get a Kobe Bryant, Chaz Lanier, blah blah blah. Let's get something. But I'm just so confident this guy can play in the next year or two for Detroit, in some capacity. And I really like that. So I'm just excited to turn into free agency, because I'm looking at this team, man, and I'm looking at one flaw in this roster. And if they find a way to patch that, I really, really like this team, because I think you've seen a team can be carried by one guy in a great, great supporting cast. And I really do like the supporting cast that the Pistons are building behind Cade Cunningham.
Yeah, I absolutely love what they're building around Cade, and the fact that they now have the vision. Like, they have somebody who is showing, at least in the early parts of this thing, that, you know what, I kind of do know the recipe here, because it was a little tough to see the Pistons struggle the first few years of Cade's career, try to really get this thing together. Now you look at this, and I don't have any concerns or worries that they're going to be able to put reputable shooting around Cade Cunningham. Sure. He just got here, right? Just got here, bookended from draft to draft, and look at all of the players that are here now that can shoot the ball, from Tobias to Tim Hardaway to Beasley, brought in Chaz Lanier now. And so you're looking at this squad, and I'm like, you know what? He's taking them places. And now what I'm waiting to see, once you do this, I believe that this is your stopgap piece. You go and you bring back maybe your vets who can shoot. You stopgap this thing with Chaz Lanier and see what is the ceiling really. Is he this first round talent? And then you focus in free agency maybe on your front court now.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm not mad at that too, because I feel like, if you're not a guard, that's going to be handling the ball, I should say, a lot. In the case of Chaz Lanier, you're not expecting him to. You're not giving him the ball and be like, all right, buddy, get us something. You're not giving him the Cam Thomas role. That's not his role on this team. So I feel like those type of players are plug and play. Whereas a front court player, you do have a little bit more responsibility defensively, because you are kind of schematically, okay, how close do I got to be to protect the rim? Like, where am I at in terms of the defensive help line, things like that. So I'm definitely not mad at them getting a young guard that can plug and play right now. And he's not even young, truthfully. He's a seasoned vet in college. So I like the fact that you can give somebody with experience a front court look. Like, go get your Santi Aldama or whoever that you like.
You got me cheesing. Got me cheesing.
I really like Santi. Yes. Like, that's the move. Go get him.
You bring back your vets and your budget offseason of Santi Aldama, Chaz Lanier, maybe another front court piece. I am okay with that, understanding that you haven't seen a full season of Schroeder yet either with the Pistons. So I would be more okay with that. I loved as well the looks that the Pistons gave us in the playoffs of when Schroeder would come off the bench and play those backcourt minutes with Cade Cunningham. Cade, those minutes, he looked very, very comfortable, especially when you're talking about dead legs at that time of year. So I can't wait to see what this team is going to be. If it is what we consider like marginal improvement or marginal additions, I do believe that has an opportunity, though, to still bolt very well for this Pistons team in the East. That's seemingly wide open. But just to reset for some people, the Pistons do take 6'4" shooter, about 200-pound Chaz Lanier out of Tennessee.
6'9" wingspan.
6'9" wingspan.
Gotta put that out there.
Actually, he's up a little bit more now. He's actually up to 206 pounds. So shout out to him, putting on a little bit more muscle. And you know what? 40% on high volume from behind the arc, 18 points per game, 3.9 rebounds, 1.1 assists. So effectively an elite shooter. Really great off movement. Probably one of your better movement shooters. Versatile scorer, can score at all three levels. Off-ball weapon, on-ball weapon. Like Justin said, this is a guy who came in and played that Dalton Connect role, and we know how important he was. Now, weaknesses, though, even though he has the tools, even though he does have the skill set that looks like it can develop into being a serviceable NBA defender, he does have to make sure that he doesn't get lost out there. As it relates to face-up, better. As it relates to when they start running you through DHOs in the NBA, which is like every play, that's where you want to make sure that he is serviceable so that they don't have the ability to pick on him. Largely, he's not an aloof defender, though. But when you're talking about what are some areas that you're hoping he can improve on, I don't look at everyone's weaknesses. When you're a young player, and I did this with Ron Holland too, I said they're going to play him to his strengths. With a young player like this, where we don't have to depend on our number 5 overall picks anymore like we did the previous ones in Asar and Jaden Ivey, you get the ability to say, hey, all we need you to do is just hustle. All we need you to do is play defense. With Chaz, even though there's some other things to his game that I want to see better, like his playmaking, we don't really need him to play make right now. We need this mother effer to shoot the leather off the ball. That's all we need. And on defense, we want to see him get a little bit better as it relates to the teams are going to attack when he's out there, and those types of players, they always attack them with DHOs, pick and rolls, pick and pops.
Yeah,
so
he's got to handle the schematics of the defense. He's got to handle just the wrinkles. He's got to be able to improve his processing, and I think that it goes for everybody to varying degrees. Every prospect is you got to get that feel for the game. You got to be able to see things. I think that, to me, I would point out a weakness, and you brought it up too, as well, as playmaking. I want to see him take that next level, because so much of the NBA, what it's good at now is these guys are supreme athletes. They are closing out hard, fast, aggressive, and they are making you put the ball on the floor and make the right read, make the right pass. And so now you are seeing bigs that are required to play make. I mean, you see the bigs that can't play make are left in the dust. Honestly, like you see really the only quality playmaking, the only quality big that's not a playmaker is Rudy Gobert. And everybody has their problems with Rudy Gobert. So to me, I think you need to be able to have a feel 1 through 5 for the game. You need to be able to attack that closeout, make the read. Am I pass this to the corner? Is the defense going to step to the corner and the layup underneath is open? Like where is my read? And I think that's where he has to improve because these NBA defenses are going to be aggressive on you. They're not only going to attack you on the other side, on the offensive side of the ball, they're going to attack you on the defensive side of the ball too, make you make some decisions.
No, and the best that he can be, I think, is serviceable at times as a playmaker. If he gets any playing time this year, any sort of meaningful minutes, he's going to average like an assist and a half per 36. It just is what it is because that's not that's not his strength right now. That's not going to be his role on the team. But you mentioned it. You can't be a complete novice out there as a playmaker. That's something that he's going to have to. The coaching staff is going to have to help develop those skills. But as long as he is a marksman from 3, as long as he can get open and come off screens and just move without the ball, be that type of guy that defenders hate to have to chase, he'll make an impact at some point. Maybe this year, maybe not. But as a playmaker, just be not terrible. I hate to be that kind of a person, but that's honestly what you need.
No, you're right. You want to make sure that they got the serviceable skills because off the pump fake, if you get the defender jumping and you step in, you want to know if this guy can throw the lob, hit K. Cunningham, hit the swing pass and things of that nature. So it's not just that the playmaking was something that was lacking. It's something that you want to see actually get better. Like I don't, this is a guy who, as the usage turns up, if he's going to be a shooter that deserves to be on the court, and if he proves to be very serviceable defensively, you want to make sure that this guy has the tools to utilize all those minutes because as the usage goes up, you want to make sure that this guy is continuing to improve. Like even with K. Cunningham, when you look at the usage go up, his turnover percentage actually goes down, which is an interesting thing. And that's where I'm hoping with who Chaz Lanier could be, I'm hoping that he's a player that effectively as the usage turns up, he proves that he's more of a adept at playmaking and defending than maybe we think right now. So, I am a lot more bullish on who he will be as a defender at the NBA level than I am as a playmaker. But I do believe that he has the chops for both of them. He has the base for both of them.
By not terrible, I mean by NBA standards.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Pick up basketball. I see the chat arguing about this team has no size. What are you talking about? This team is led by Kate Cunningham and has Asar Thompson and Jalen Duren and a lot of size and athleticism on his team.
I think they're just
I don't get that.
Mad about the fact that we don't have a 4.
Yeah, I get that. That was the most glaring need. This was, I guess, a luxury pick if you want to call it that, but it could be an essential pick because now you do have a replacement for not Dennis Schroeder, Malik Beasley, but you have a replacement for a Marcus Sasser. Because everybody talks about Ivy and Duren as, the guys you got to re-sign or make decision on. But you also got to make decision on Marcus Sasser. That's far less consequential, don't get me wrong. But that's still something that every team has to factor in.
And this is the reason why it matters even more is because the Pistons are now, whether they are going out and signing big free agents or not, they're spending more money. And Kay Cunningham just tackled another $45 million to his contract for making All-NBA team. So now you got a player making $40 million. You got to actually take advantage of his window, let alone if they're going to improve at all above Tobias Harris, who himself is making $26 million. He's going to need more money. Isaiah Stewart, we talk about Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, and Marcus Sasser. Who's going to need to get paid next after them? Asar Thompson and Isaiah Stewart. So you need these picks. You need a Sasser to actually work out. You need him because right now you can get him at a cheaper deal than the talent that he shows at his peak.
Yes.
And that's where it's like, you need Chaz Lanier. You probably need Dennis Jenkins and Bobby Clemens. You need these guys to be something. Why? Because even if they don't stick around on your team, if there can be assets you can trade even for second-round picks, you see how valuable they are in this NBA. So for Trajan to be able to continue to have this team mature and grow and pay your guys, you're going to have these kind of lower-level draft picks be the things that pan out for you.
I think
you're going to have to.
You're looking at the NBA champion Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, I know they're led by a guy that they acquired via trade, right? And they do have a boatload of picks, so they're in a different situation than the Pistons were. But they had 10 guys play minutes for them this year that were drafted by them, that were drafted or signed as unrestricted free agents or undrafted free agents, excuse me. So there are 10 players on the Oklahoma City Thunder roster that played this year, not counting Nikola Topic that people are forgetting about. I like that prospect a lot. But those are 10 guys that played minutes for you, and they were all played their first basketball for the Oklahoma City Thunder. So you're right. The blueprint, we're seeing it now, is to have guys on cost-effective, controlled contracts. And other guys that they didn't play, that wasn't their first contract, was a guy like Isaiah Joe that we brought up earlier. And guess what? He's getting paid $1 million this season. $1 million. $1 million for Isaiah Joe and all the production that he brought this year. Like, you need to have those type of players to build the team.
Beasley at $6 million. You look at what Trajan did this past offseason.
That was an absolute steal.
And that's where I'm like, you know what?
That's what you need.
This is now, we talk about the pivotal aspect, the pivotal nature of this offseason. This is now where he can go and effectively put not a bow on this offseason on this team, but he can go and definitely make sure to pretty it up a little bit more, put the dress on it before you put the bow on it. And that's where you're hoping that 4 that you're looking for, if they have some plans to go out there, because I don't know how many other teams can play. A lot of these other teams are either strapping themselves or have already made 1 or even 2 freaking deals. They've traded draft picks. They've traded their assets. They're not going to trade the players they just traded for. Maybe Jalen Green, but, that's Jalen Green. Shout out to Summer. Hey, shout out. Peace out. God. But, this is a situation where, sheesh, man, I lost the train of thought. But, with these players, you want them ultimately, like I said earlier, to pan out because you want these guys to be able to give Trajan Langdon as much freedom as possible to go out there, and if he wants to spend big in free agency for that 4, you want that 4 here. And this is where I'm hoping he's tipping his hand. Do you bring in one of those front court players that you like if you believe that he's going to go out in free agency and bring in another? And then I wonder how much does this mean he enjoys what maybe Bobby Clinton could be? Because he's on a 4-year guaranteed contract, which we cannot understate that. That's a guaranteed deal.
This guy better get a 4-year too. This guy, Chaz Lanier, better get a 4-year contract as well.
I agree with that one.
Yeah, like if they sign him for 2 or less, I'm gonna lose my shit. No, that was an underrated ad in the CBA, was allowing second rounders to sign for more than 2 years, because now you don't have to pay them right away. You can have that again. You have to be conscious of the cap in this era. You really, really do. When you have the top players making so much, and then you need depth too. You just need depth, and when you need depth, you need guys that are honestly underpaid.
So
So that's where they're at.
As we look ahead, as we wind up just a little bit here, when you look ahead, you're looking at some 4s, you're looking at some 5s. That's probably where your focus is in this offseason. So you got people like Bobby Portis, Naz Reid, Lauri Markkanen, among others out there. Who are you hoping that the Detroit Pistons go after to try and fill that role at 4? Whether it's a backup 4 or whether it's effectively a guy that you think can be a star here.
Man,
because I know we've been kicking around Portis for a while, and then Naz Reid is a guy who's starting to creep up, because I think that Naz Reid might be a little bit of a ceiling raiser for the Detroit Pistons.
I like both of those options. There's obviously, if you want to take a big swing for Lauri Markkanen, if you want to take a big swing for Sabonis, that's the thing. We talk about this free agency class when it comes to UFAs as weak. But when it comes to those 4s who can stretch the floor and have a particular set of skills, there's some guys.
Yes.
That's where I'd argue that maybe the free agency is at its strongest. How much does a Naz Reid help you? How much does a Bobby Portis help you? I think a lot.
Yes.
At least for this team, I think it's something that they need. Any of those options at this point I'm okay with.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you look at this team and you saw what is the big difference from last year to this year. 1, it was you don't have a Terrace as a head coach. 2, it was you had spacing. And the shooting that Cade Cunningham had opened up the floor for him. Now, imagine getting shooting out of your front court.
Yeah.
Like, imagine what that does for Cade. Imagine what he's done. Because the truth be told is that as good as this team is, and as much as I like this team, there is some spacing issues still. You do have Asar and Duran. You do have Ivy, who I don't know how much people are going to respect in the playoffs, and is a streaky shooter at best. So you do have some questions with a lot of your core players in terms of the spacing that they can provide around Cade Cunningham. So getting a guy that could come in, like my guy Santi, and shoot the ball from 3, play the 4 and the 5, play with either Stu or Duren, I really, really like that. I think that drastically changes this team. I mean, look, I'm making a joke here, but I'm kind of serious. The Mike Muscala experiment was kind of fun. Like, he was. Like, he was hitting shots, and I was like, oh, my God. Imagine Cade Cunningham was shooting at the 5.
I mean, look,
Santi Aldama. That's the name that I forgot. But just add him to the list.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been talking about him on Woo. Remember,
They
I
gotta
looked
get
at
one
you
of them,
about
right?
Yes.
They got to.
Yes.
I think there's too many for them to not get one.
Yes.
Yeah, and I looked at you a few weeks ago, and I told you I think I'm becoming a Santi Aldama stan. And it was, we've been covering him now for I think about 3 or 4 weeks as it relates to our off-season and our free agency coverage of the Detroit Pistons. And that is a player who I do like. I don't know how much of a ceiling raiser he is, but I do believe he's a floor raiser. There are some things that from the motor consistently throughout the game, the physicality, the not fading away, that I want to know he's ready for that role. Because if you take a swing on Santi Aldama, it's because you believe he's going to take another step up a level. And I do believe he has it in him. Like, trust me, we are in lockstep there. That's a player that I've said, when you're talking about what the Pistons want to do, especially if they're looking off-season away from now, when they're going to have way more flexibility to spend, maybe you go a little bit cheaper with a Santi Aldama than to play in the $25 to $30 million a year range with Bobby Portis and Naz Reid.
Yeah.
That's where I do believe that you keep all your flexibility. You get to look at a player who you're not putting all of the onus on right now, because you still have Tobias Harris here, who I do believe they like at the 4 for right now. So it's like, if a Santi Aldama is the one to me that I think is the marginally perfect upgrade. He's allowed to come in, slide in right away, not too much pressure. You get the opportunity to see how much more does he have without putting all the usage on him that you would potentially a Naz Reid or a Bobby Portis if they came here. But that doesn't mean that I don't like Naz and Bobby. Sometimes I'm like, yo, I would love that, but obviously that's Tobias out. I just don't quite know if they're there at that point right now.
Yeah.
No, and just to clarify, I feel like this is something we forget about because they might as well be UFAs, but Naz Reid and Bobby Portis both have player options that they would never pick up because they're going to make way more than that and get more term.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm glad you pointed out, because you're right. I didn't think about it until now. It is kind of perfectly lining up that the thing the Pistons need the most happens to be what is a thin free agency class, but highly available. And, I was saying trade for Lauri Markkanen. I like Lauri. Now, I know that he is right now on pace to be top 10 all-time games played without a playoff game. I know that. And I know that I just spent this whole show preaching I want guys in the playoffs. But I think that is a seamless plug-and-play fit for Detroit. So I would look at that as a possibility, because you know what? They got Ace Bailey, who didn't want to be there, but I think Danny Ainge believes that's his guy.
I don't think anybody wants to be there.
Yeah,
but
he damn sure did.
Get me out.
He damn sure did.
Yeah.
And so he was trying to get away, but he's there, and now that makes it maybe a little more likely to sell Lauri Markkanen, because you know what, guys? If Danny Ainge doesn't sell Lauri Markkanen and does another year to tank, which I think he clearly has to do. I think that's why he's reportedly aggressive for a guy like Jaylen Brown, is because he knows he can't tank again. Because if he tanks again and just benches Lauri Markkanen a bunch, you now have 2.5 years where you've just shelved this guy, and that diminishes his value.
I think he does know, though, that teams like the Pistons, they would probably snap that deal up at the trade deadline type of a thing.
Yeah.
And that's where he gives himself the ability to say, I can hold Lauri Markkanen right now and see if I can get a star that can contribute, or a star level player that can contribute. You think about Utah. Mm-hmm. When they acquired Lauri Markkanen, it was for a similar type of deal. And I believe that they want to utilize Lauri Markkanen in that type of a deal before they unload him for draft picks that are a little less known. And that's where I think they're having their issues. I think that they're looking for the perfect Sabonis for Tyrese Halliburton swap with Lauri Markkanen, and I believe that that's going to stunt what they're able to do, at least right now. But they do got that flexibility, because they don't give a frick about winning right now. They care about getting there eventually, from things I'm hearing within the next couple of years. But he's a player that I don't know. If we go to them, they might say, oh, sure, yeah, just throw a Sarah Duren in the deal. Because I think that they're looking for that next level player.
I agree. I just don't think the market is going to dictate that for them.
Oh, I want Lauri Markkanen.
Yeah.
And that's why I believe that this might be one of them situations where
maybe we
can
approach this next
waits
year.
him out, smokes him out.
Yeah, we can wait. We can wait. Like, we're good.
Do we just become best friends, bro? Are we
already
starting the Lauri Mark? I know that. The Lauri Markkanen bandwagon. Like, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Listen, man. I almost don't want to even get myself like even thinking that it could be that possibility, even though there's been rumors for the last few seasons that Markkanen was a Pistons target.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it just makes sense. And again, not to go back to Rasheer Fleming, and yes, I am heartbroken by it, but the reason I liked him is because the one thing he couldn't do.
Because you want to play Simone Fontecchio.
What's that?
Because you want to replace Simone Fontecchio.
Who?
That's why.
I'm sorry.
He's already gone to
your
mind.
I got sources that say that Simone Fontecchio is available for the right price. Sources.
Is the right price any
Simone
price?
Fontecchio,
Yes, the right price is the right price is not even something nice.
The Simone Fontecchio experiment of not last year but the year before was like the Mike Muscala one on steroids. I fell in love.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to be someone that would contribute greatly.
I was in love,
dog.
I was stricken.
I
was smitten, dog.
I was in love, but sometimes, you have to get your heart broken to
100%.
know what's truly the one, what's truly your worth. And I think that Simone Fontecchio taught me that. So I'm grateful for him for that.
I'll tell you what, though, in a potential Lauri Markkanen deal, whether it's this offseason or the next one, I don't think anyone besides Cade is untouchable. Asar's close.
Listen.
I'm hanging up the phone. Lauri Markkanen, you got to do better than that. To me, you got to be a top 15 player for Asar to be in the deal.
Yeah, and that's why Asar's the closest. But
yeah, Asar's the closest, and then Duren right after that for me. And I put Ivy in a completely different category because I said this before. And people are like, oh, so what do you think about Ivy? I'm one of the folios who do believe that Ivy could be a 25-5 player, bro. Yeah. I really do. 25-5 player. So he's a guy who, if you got to trade him, you got to trade him. But I'm actually not rushing to trade him. I'm just not. I think that there is something special there from a kid who's shown he will literally do anything the organization asks, smile about it, and work towards it. When he went through under Monty Williams and he survived and then literally thrived at the end of the season over the last 20 games to hit like 36 or 37% of his threes, I was like, you know what? Exactly. Give this man everything that you can give him good in the world. And he wanted this. He said, look, man, I remember being there before he knew. We were like, look, we're hearing some rumblings. I'm gonna resurface that video, and just to see him, he's like, man, the stuff they put on the wall, the grit, the work, the determination for our brothers, for our teamwork, I believe that. I cannot say that and then let it be a lie. And I was just like, and he was like, so I'm here to do whatever the team wants me to do. Yeah. That type of guy. And then when he gets the usage turned back up, instantly goes back to a 17-4-4 player, and the efficiency got better. Even I'm like, let's go, Jaden. I want to see where this goes.
My Ivy thing is this, and this is where I know that Easy. I seen him in the chat. I think this is the point where he leaves. But my Ivy thing is this, is that, okay, look, you drafted him probably thinking or hoping he was going to be your number 2 guy, right? Like he was going to be the one that was the co-star to Cade Cunningham. But in reality, if this guy is a great starter or a great 6th man, and you have somebody like Asar or Duren rising to be your number 2, or you go get your number 2 via trade, then Ivy is still a good, valuable player to his team. He doesn't have to be the second best player just because he was drafted right after Cade the next draft. Like, he doesn't have to be the second best player of this team. If he is a contributor on a winning team, there is value in that. I understand that everybody wants him to be the Robin to Cade's Batman. I get that. But in all reality, if he is a Jordan Clarkson or better, guess what? You still probably need that in the final.
Yeah.
So I'm good with that.
My heart tells me, not just my heart, my head, and just what I've seen, that the Pistons have a lot of potential third best players on a championship team. I think Ivy could be that. I think Asar could be that. I think Duren maybe, if he develops more of an offensive game. But at the end of the day, though, here's the thing. And Chris, you're not as privy to my very complicated relationship with Ivy and his fans. Yeah. One, I think that the Jaden Ivy slappies are the most insufferable fan base in all of Detroit. Like the Cade Hate and Ivy bros, as I like to say.
Really?
However, I really hope a lot of you are right and I'm wrong. Because if Jaden Ivy could actually be that number, that 2, that guy who people compare to like Dwayne Wade even, or the likes, which I'm not sure I agree with, but a caliber of player who's a perennial all-star who could be the number 2, that would do wonders for this team. I hope you all are right. I see a lot of threes.
You know
that's
what
not
I
a bad
saw,
thing, by the way.
but you know what I did see from Jaden Ivey this year is when you talk about who Dwayne Wade has been, and I know people, this is blasphemous and all that type of stuff, but when you're talking about archetypes and what players can step into, Jaden Ivey does have the ability to play in the mid-range. Jaden Ivey does have the downhill ability. Jaden Ivey does have the body control. And you know what we saw him stepping into? Big game, end of game ability. Jaden Ivey was a plus. And he was handling when Cade Cunningham was getting blitzed, he was handling that perfectly. You saw his assist and his playmaking and facilitation all improve, as well as his three-point shooting on high volume. And my man, for as short as his season was, hit 2 game winners. And let's not just focus on that. My man was hitting some big shots down the stretch too. Next to Cade, what were we missing sorely in the playoffs? Yeah. I believe that Jaden Ivey, whether he becomes a star or not, is a really good. When I look at some of the great backcourts in Pistons history, no matter what the outside world will say about them, I knew that backcourt worked well together, that they complemented each other well together. And when I just see Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham, literally the fire and ice dynamic, I do see a backcourt that works well together. And I thought we saw them stepping into that this season before he went down.
I agree. And you know what, to your point, because I don't disagree with that. I think that those guys are, I would say maybe I see Asar as, again, assuming he reaches his ceiling, as a 2. Not a 2 as in like your second leading point per game player, but
I know what you're saying.
I know what player.
Yeah.
But look at the history. Look at the DNA. 2004, 89, 90. Those were teams that had, Isaiah Thomas, and it was, granted, a lot of good players around them, but it was a team collective. The 2004 Pistons are an even better example of those are guys that was a whole team of threes. That was a whole team of threes. Rip was a 3 probably on a championship team. Chauncey's probably a 3 on a championship team. Sheed was, Ben was, in terms of best player, probably like a 2. I don't know. Like, I feel like that was a team that they definitely didn't have a 1. Let's put it that way.
Right.
And you have a 1 in Cade Cunningham. So maybe the math works out that 1 plus 3 threes gets you the job done.
And you know what? It works
Maybe.
that way when you have, I believe, the coach that you can believe in. You can buy into his message. We know the Pistons have done. And players who will decide to be stars in their own lane. Rasheed Wallace came here as a bona fide star in the NBA and decided, what? I want to be a star in my own lane. I want to be a 3 now for the sake of this team. So if you have a team that's choosing to be 3s, despite the fact that their ceiling or their potential could even have them be 2s in their own right, I believe that's a good thing for the Pistons overall, because you see that some of the good teams, they have multiple players who can honestly ride away for a game beyond just Jason Tatum. And I do believe that you need more players like that. We saw Malik Beasley be able to be that in the regular season. We saw Jaden Ivey be able to be that before he got injured. And I do believe the more of those types of players you have, they don't got to be Cade Cunningham, they don't got to be stars, but for a 5-minute stretch, can you sell 5 shimmy meals? You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm hoping that we can get with some of these players that we believe has that high potential, can step towards stardom, but ultimately these are some consistent players who, when we need them to step up and be like a number 2, that they can definitely go ahead and do that.
And I can assure you guys already know that, and the people in the chat, that I was I had no qualms with the way Ivy was playing in totality when he went down with the injury. I thought the improvement that he showed in terms of his shooting, in terms of playing off the ball, I saw it. It was tangible. 40% from behind the arc. Didn't ever think I'd see that with Ivy, and I saw it. So I'm not saying I'm out on him. I'm not saying that you Ivy bros might not be right. My heart of hearts tells me that he's a 3, and that's okay, by the way.
I
Chris,
agree
you said
with that.
He's okay.
And I agree with that. Like, that's why I say I kind of put him in another lane.
Yeah.
I do believe that Asar and Jalen Duren have what it takes to step towards stardom. I don't quite want to even use that phrase or term with Jaden Ivey. I think that there's some players who they're great in their situations, no matter what they are. And I think that Ivy is that here. He's shown. I will literally go to the end of the bench. I will, if you want to punt me to the moon, I'll do that. And so for those types of players, you need, as we say, Isaiah Stewart, I don't care if he's the first or the last player. I know he's an impact and a difference maker. And that's where I kind of put Jaden Ivey in that category too, as the type of player he is. And effectively the culture, the vibes and all that. I like that stuff, man.
I think when you look at this team and you just have the season that they had last year, I get it's important to obsess over who's the number 2, because a number 2 would have really, really helped in the playoffs for the Pistons. A number 2, and you're probably in the conference finals at least. But
goodness gracious,
I'll say this.
You're right.
Again, this is a team that is very much built with depth, and I think that the math can work out to where these combination of players can work if they reach their ceilings. I talk about this all the time. Maybe you don't have to have the big acquisition. Like we say this all the time. Spencer says this with the Lions, right? Their big acquisition this offseason was getting a healthy Hutch. Pistons don't necessarily have that, but instead of trading for Lauri Markkanen, what if in their contract years, Jalen Duren takes a big step?
Yeah.
What if Jaden Ivey in his contract year takes a big step? What if Asar in his first fully healthy offseason takes a big step? What if Cade Cunningham takes another big step? That right there equals more than getting a star. Like this team is so young, it has so many young players, and I get it. That's a parlay of things you're hoping to happen, but I like the chances when 2 of them are in a contract year. You know that's gonna be balling. And Asar, I'm just betting on that guy to the bank. That's the one I'm most confident in. So you give me his first healthy offseason,
because
plus we know what Cade is.
Yeah.
That math adds up to something pretty big. And guess what? I didn't mention Ron Howard. Like all 5 of those guys improving, that is a huge, huge difference. You don't necessarily need to swing for the fences.
And the reason, and that's why, and I've been consistent about this. Some people might say I'm being wishy-washy, but I don't give a damn. If I were GM Flannel Sam, I would probably try to take a big swing, like get like a bona fide star. However, I am open not to necessarily running it back completely, but running it back for the most part, getting a good draft pick, getting like a 4, like a Naz Reid or somebody like that. That not necessarily him, but that's just a name. And counting on contract year bumps, healthy Asar offseason bumps, I could see it. Like Asar Thompson a freaking blood clot that he was recovering from.
Yeah, like
that matters.
And came back in the playoffs and was an absolute just defensive demon on Jalen Brunson, to the point that Brunson was like, yo, I had to find that guy after the series and tell him, you're the real deal. And so with Asar Thompson, I do believe, and I see Weezy D 313, he says, Ivy has way more star power than Asar and Duren. LOL, what? I think that all these guys have star power.
I get what
but Asar Thompson is a guy who's, I do too, but Asar Thompson at the end of the day is going to be a guy who's going to fill the entire stat sheet and be one of your most prolific defensive players. There's not a guy on this roster who comes close to who Asar Thompson is defensively.
Yes.
That has to matter for something. We're in defense in a city where, for better or worse, and for Flannel's case, we will champion these guys and believe they belong in the Hall of Fame, like a Ben Wallace. So I like where Asar Thompson, what we're putting on him. We literally gave him effectively that Tayshaun treatment. Oh, your first playoffs? Go out there and grab the star. Go out there and guard him the whole time. You're used to I remember Tayshaun having to go out there and defend Tracy McGrady and then Allen Iverson, LeBron. Like, I remember those years. And Asar Thompson was getting that straight out the gate while we were still trash. We wasn't even playing for nothing. They were like, Asar, go out there and get the stars. Like, why? Well, that is not the fire you shot that you would have thrown him into.
Asar Thompson's Game 5 in this year's playoffs was the second best. What was the best game any Piston has played other than Cade in last year's playoffs? He was an absolute demon.
100%.
And I believe, Armand,
I'm waiting for Jalen Duren to wake up and realize he's a giant human being. That's what I'm waiting
I put that in print. Like, does he know he's the biggest player on the court?
Does he know how strong he is?
No, he does not. And that's not. He's a young player, and that's not a diss or anything like that. It's just. When people talk about him being his potential and just the fact that he's basically a Greek god at 21 with a ton of athleticism.
Absolute sculpture.
No, he is. And that matters, but I don't see star with Duren. And that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
I see a very good, and that's why, I feel confident that these players are going to get, I know there's a fear too among players or among fans, are these guys going to get overpaid? I don't think so, because I think a lot of people want Jalen Duren, yes, but I don't know if a lot of people are looking at him as like, this is a guy that could be a number 2 on our team. I think you look at the archetype of centers that have won championships or been like the 1 or 2 on a championship team contender, and it's pretty clear that Jalen Duren is not that.
Yeah.
He's not Jokic. He is not Embiid. He is not, like Karl-Anthony Towns. Like Karl-Anthony Towns last year was the number 2 on a championship contender. Like, those are guys that have a different skill set than Jalen Duren brings. So I think it's very, very clear that Jalen Duren is a very good player to have, a very important player to have, but is he your number 2? No, and I don't think his pay is going to reflect that. So I am totally fine with where I'm at with Jalen Duren. Again, I got to also give him the benefit of the doubt and shut up because he proved me wrong. I was very, very hard on him coming into the season, and he absolutely proved me wrong with his defense and his improvement that he made there. So, I get with Ivy. People want to say, it's easy to see that be successful because we've seen so many variations of that succeed. But the truth is, Ausar is the number 2 on this team right now, and I feel very comfortable in that. But he doesn't do the box score things, like you said. He just does the things that are necessary.
Scoring-wise, you would look at people like a Malik Beasley and even to a degree a Tobias Harris. But when you're talking about the impact to this team, that if Ausar Thompson was gone, I believe that he significantly dampens what the Pistons will be able to do this season. Just like Cade, obviously, is going to be the biggest star of that. And Jalen Duren, you can't lose him. And we saw this team be able to weather the storm of losing a Jaden Ivey, though I don't want them to. I think you're a better team. You have more depth, and you have more talent. When we talk about three-point shooters, he was a really good three-point shooter last year. So we lost three-point shooting last year when he went down. So that's where – and you look at who Cade Cunningham early in the season. Cade Cunningham's catch-and-shoot three-point percentage was pretty high to start the season, man. Pretty high. And when you look at who he was shooting the highest percentage off of catch-and-shoot threes from, it was Jaden Ivey.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. The downhill action, he's a player that was starting to attract extra defenders.
Gravity.
And for whatever reason, Cade was sitting there wide open, and he would be able to have the opportunity to knock down a 3 or 2 with Jaden Ivey as the facilitator. But, the more and more we talk about this, the more and more we see how Trajan Langdon is operating, is the more and more that I'm looking at the fact that this team can trust and rely on what they have in-house. I do believe that they have some guys that if they have the opportunity this year to make some big strides and big leaps, I do believe they can. Then you're putting yourselves in a very expensive offseason next year, but one in which you're a lot more sure going forward. And it's probably going to be a lot cheaper, or at least a lot easier to facilitate the continuity and the consistency and to be able to have a player that in-house already versus maybe going out there and facilitate. And that's why I continue to say I believe they're trying to give themselves one more offseason. If they're going to be good and they think they can compete for the top 4 in the East and they think it's wide open, I almost feel like they're going to give themselves the max amount of flexibility, and that's next offseason. From this trade deadline coming up to next offseason, I think you're going to see some fireworks.
Yeah, I think that's where you expect it, is the trade deadline or forward or beyond. I know that it's exciting to talk about the East. And look, I'm not mad at somebody saying go for a star right now, because the truth is that you've had the last 7 champions. None of them have been repeaters. Yeah. That's the longest in NBA history. Yeah. Historically, that's not a common thing. So, it kind of seems like a lot of teams have 1-2 year windows, and then just something changes. Other than OKC, everybody's looking at it as a long window. But yeah, I think that's something. I'm not mad if you do the flannel Sammy, you go for it, because recent history shows us you don't get as many cracks at the apple as you thought.
But I'll tell you what, though, and obviously that's my first choice, but when we talk about running things back relatively, you were talking about Ausar Thompson, and I know this is something that I used to point out a lot on me and Kool-Aid show Wake Up Woodward about Ron Holland, and the fact that in limited minutes there were several games where he just made a incredible impact with his energy, athleticism, defense, etc., etc. What I want to see, what might actually be the most exciting thing for this next season for me, besides, of course, Cade, because he's my favorite player, Ausar Thompson with more minutes. Because that man played 22.5 minutes per game. And his per 36 numbers, because you were talking about the box score, he averaged 16, 8, and 4 points, rebounds, assists, 3 steals per game, and a block. And he did it efficiently because he didn't really shoot threes. He was... more minutes with Ausar. And actually, in the playoffs, he averaged 18 per 36. 18 and 8 rebounds.
And you remember the game? I saw somebody reference it earlier as well. Cade was out. It was a last-minute scratch against Philly.
Yeah.
And he went ham. And I think it was Allen W. who said, do you believe he gets a bad rap offensively, because of his offensive game, when in reality you look at what this guy is doing when he gets the opportunity and the usage, and you see, I've consistently stated this, and I've even asked the questions in the press conferences about the fact that these guys like Ausar Thompson and even Ron Holland picked up on this as well. You don't have to be a pylon that just stands in the corner if you're not a good shooter. These guys can facilitate from the top of the key. They can get into the paint. They can put their back to the basket. They can break you down off the ISO. They're really fast off the pick and roll. Have you seen Ron Holland and Ausar Thompson off the pick? Have you seen them also as the roller? So it's like, there's so many different ways you can do things, and I get it. We've been privy to some coaching that hasn't been too dynamic or innovative with the new era style of basketball players. I think that's where Troy Weaver's mind was looking at when Kevin Ollie was potentially one of the rumored hires. They're looking for people that run those types of actions and plays and aren't willing to just stay stuck in their ways, which some people thought J.B. Bickerstaff might have been that with Cleveland. In reality, I think that there was just a star that was there who didn't like to be coached. What we see right now here is a coach, and you bring in a Luke Walton who understands a lot more of those offensive sets to take advantage of those players. That, to me, has been a brilliant stroke of genius there. The assistant coaches he brought in, Kevin Burleson, Luke Walton, and you got to go to Jamel McMillan, who's the head coach of the Motor City Cruise. They've been very, very instrumental and very keen, very good at being able to get the best out of these players, whether they got the three-point shot working or not.
Yep, no. Ausar Thompson's offense absolutely gets slept on. If you want to say that he can't shoot the three worth a damn, great. That's fine. I'll concede. We should all concede. But you mentioned all the other things that he does
Fred
well.
Vincent, though.
No, hey,
he got his work cut out.
I'm not sure he'll be able to fix Ausar to a great level, but 30%, man, just 30%. Shout out Janai Broom for still being the ghost that now haunts the Philadelphia 76ers.
That dude, Justin, I'd be remiss before we shut this thing down if we didn't go to our guy Anton, and I know he sent in his video reaction. Let's go to our brother Anton. Shout out to him. He fills in for
What's
E&E.
good, Woodward Sports? Your boy Detroit Heckler here. The Detroit Pistons did not make any big trades, but they sure landed themselves a player in the second round tonight. Pick number 37 is Chaz Lanier out of Tennessee, a transfer from North Florida who led the Volunteers this year with 18 points per game, and he also shot 40% from behind the arc, exactly what our Pistons need. He's 6'5" with a 6'9" wingspan, uber athletic, easily could have been a first-round pick. Trajan Langdon killed it. Woodward Sports, let's go.
Shout out Anson.
Shout out Anson. A lot of truth there too, man. He wanted to be here tonight, but because he was on the show earlier, had some things to deal with, he couldn't be here. But we are in the process of developing some things. I'll be hosting a Woodward basketball show here alongside Mr. Anson and Chris Platty here. So working out the details, getting the timing together, and I cannot wait to get this thing going. Obviously, our interns will be in the building, all of our other contributors. Flannel Sam is always going to be a reoccurring character here. And so, I can't wait. I can't wait to see where this goes. There's a whole lot more conversation that we got as it relates to the Pistons. I'm still sitting up here looking at this board. I still think that there's just a couple players here, and the Pistons are going to be able to get themselves some good undrafted free agents. But I do think that's a show. I see you guys in the chat. ADIS411, he says, thanks, Woodward. Weezy303. I appreciate y'all fellas. And you know what? Saying that, I appreciate you guys.
Hey,
thank you guys for making the time, having the passion, and honestly support. And I know that dude, Justin, you got a big night tomorrow with Woodward Wings, you and Flannel. NHL draft, and Justin was like, and he's over there struggling, bro.
Shout out to him, man.
Struggling.
Really.
He hit me up. He was like, Kool-Aid, I just want to make sure I can do everything possible to support you. Intern Ryan said the same thing. Intern Noah said, bro, if you're having the show, I am there. So shout out to you guys for showing up. Shout out to you guys for putting a lot of work. But Justin, I got to double back around and just say, man, thank you. You did a lot of stuff. I know there's some things in that TD booth that I know Platty will be able to say, you know what, I can relate. Thank you for getting a lot of stuff cooked up in there for us and having this thing go off without a hitch, Justin. Thank you, brother.
Absolutely.
And no problem. It's my pleasure. Make sure you tune in tomorrow at 7 p.m. Me and Spencer will be going live for the NHL draft, breaking down some prospects, breaking down NHL free agency for the Red Wings, and we are going to be live till the Red Wings pick. So we're going to crack a couple White Claws and Sun Cruisers tomorrow and have a day. So if you want some hockey tomorrow, make sure you tap in 7 o'clock. Me and Spencer are going to be holding it down during the NHL draft.
Yep, and then you also got the free agency primer that'll be dropping on Saturday,
Yep,
right?
Saturday 10 a.m. we got the free agency primer for the NHL. All you need to know about the latest rumors for the Detroit Red Wings, that will drop at 10 a.m. on Saturday, so make sure you tap into that as well.
Hey, shout out to Ramon, the new age. He says, yes, I appreciate y'all coverage, fellas. Get home safe. Detroit Red. Great content, guys. I'm out. Hey, I really appreciate you guys. I see you, Varys, in the chat. It's cool to see some of our regulars here, too. So thank you guys for all of the support tonight. And before we wrap up, any last words from you, intern Ryan? I want to hear what you got to say about this draft, man. Anything else that you want to get off before we shut it down?
No, but I just had to make sure I was repping my Bad Boys t-shirt today. I got from a long time ago. But no, I'm absolutely exhausted. I've been in the building since 10 a.m., I think.
Yeah.
So it's been a minute, but no, absolutely like the draft pick because he's really good at shooting the three.
Man, you only been here 11 minutes, bro? 10, 11. Shout out to you, though. He's been grinding his tail off.
Shout out.
But no, really like the draft pick because if you surround your superstar with shooters, good things happen. And look at last year.
Yeah, I agree with that. And shout out to you, too. I want to just make sure people know, man, he's
Absolutely.
clipped the show. He already clipped the segment of us reacting to the Chaz Lanier pick and everything. He's going to get some reels for us. So that's what I'm saying. We got a lot of hardworking individuals here who are also ball knowers. It's not just people who are, have the information, but they're willing to do what's possible to make sure that we have a show and a network, man. This is what it's about. People who are passionate about Detroit, Michigan sports, and each other, willing to come in and work as a team. Willing to come in with no egos, and this has been one of the more refreshing experiences I've ever been a part of. So, shout out to Woodward Sports, shout out to you guys, and intern Noah. Any last words from you before I break it down with Platty and Flannel?
Shout out to everyone who decided to come and watch the coverage. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks for having me, everybody. Thank God we didn't end up with an eyebrow. That's the biggest takeaway tonight for me, but it's just a pleasure to be here.
Let's go, man. Shout out to intern Noah and Flannel Sam. I know we're gonna do this tomorrow anyway, but you're literally one of our vets of this network here. One of the ball knowers across all sports. Somebody's very, very well prepared, and he told me, he was like, "Yeah, I know these guys, but I got some time. I'm about to go and put in even some more work." I appreciate you, Flannel Sam.
And even more tonight and tomorrow. Not so much about everyone else, but more so about Mr. Chaz Lanier, because I still think there's more that I need to.
I can't wait.
We're always looking to grow.
I'm gonna watch.
I don't think any of us are getting sleep.
I'm
We're all
gonna
be watching his tape
I'm watching
tonight.
some tape.
No, but
I'll be hitting the group chat.
if you guys watched tonight and you enjoyed it, tune in to Wake Up Woodward tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Tune in to Woodward Heavyweights featuring Chris Platty. He'll be heavily featured tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yes,
and you
sir.
know what? For Wake Up Woodward, just a quick sneak preview. We will be doing draft, we will be doing Tigers, and we will be getting your feedback. Think of any questions that you might want to ask us. Give us a call.
Hey, man, before we get out of here, man, we got 185 people in here, and we have 153 likes. So let's get that let's run that like up.
How many total views have we had? Because I know concurrent, we topped out. We had a lot, hundreds of people in here, man. But
2,743.
2,700 crazy people out there, man. Yeah. Hey, shout out to you guys for supporting.
Shout out to all.
That's awesome, man. Smash that like button if you haven't gotten the opportunity to. Subscribe if you haven't gotten the opportunity to. It's not just the 4-man shows, but a lot of new content is hitting the network, and you don't want to miss out. Entertainment, sports, it's going to be a fun place. And talking about entertainment before we break down, I actually just got the email. Shout out to Pistons PR and my guy Mike. Let's see here. The Detroit Pistons present a night with the orchestra. So we will be in the building with Big Sean, Skilla Baby, T Grizzly, Illa J, Nesson, Queen Naja. I can't wait. June 29th. So it's going to be pretty hype. And this is Woodward Sports. We're stepping into more of it. And as we talk about the entertainment part of it, my man Chris Platty, as we break down, because I gotta be there. I gotta be there. We're starting to become over sports and entertainment. I know you in music and entertainment. Man. You're one of those ones, bro.
I got to talk to Big Sean, man. That's one of my favorite artists in the game. Skilla Baby as well. Shot to that. That's a star-studded cast. But yeah, Sean's my guy. I got some questions I gotta ask Sean, man. I got some things I gotta get to the bottom of.
Hey, great
did
guy,
you really
man.
put $500K on Kate after dapping up Kate on money line for the Pistons at halftime?
I do want to ask.
I need to know that.
Hey, you know what?
I need to know that.
I know one thing he did. he has supported Woodward Sports from the beginning.
Yeah, no,
Shout out to Big Sean.
I believe that, man. Everything I know about him, he's a good dude. I can't wait to have a conversation with him. There's so many rap questions I want to ask him. I can't wait.
Hey, Varys, I see you in the chase. Says he can't wait for Summer League. I can't wait for Summer League. I sent
Summer
off
League
the
is gonna be
credential.
fun. I'm ready
We'll
to
be there.
overreact to Summer League. I'm so ready for Chaz Lanier to drop 22 in his Summer League debut and us be like, we got one.
Wait, you didn't hear?
We got one.
Bobby Clinton's jersey is going to go into the rafters after this Summer
for
League.
sure. Bobby Clinton's averaging a triple-double. Chaz Lanier.
Ron Holland Summer League Jordan.
Chaz Lanier's dropping 20 a game. Oh, and Ron Holland. I forgot about Ron Holland. That's another 30.
I actually don't even want to see him in Summer League. I'm going to be through with you.
I don't either.
No, I
don't want to see Ron. You don't need to be there, bro.
I do. I want to see.
Selfish.
I want to see one thing I can overreact to. I still hold on to that Jalen Duren jump shot in Summer League, where it looks so smooth.
Or the Cade Cunningham crossover on Jalen Green.
I just did one of those from Ron Holland, and then that's fine. You can
Go sit down, buddy.
That's fine, but give me one highlight that I'm like I can hang on to for the next 5 years and still believe in you as a prospect.
Chris Plotty, everybody. One of the best ball knowers that I know, and I'm glad that we get to do this, man. Finally talking Pistons, talking basketball on the main desk for the network.
Thank you, man. And you're one of the people that has been the most supportive. Everyone here at this network, like you said, is a team, but you've been the one that has really, really looked out for me and put me in a lot of positions. So I'm grateful for that.
And knowledgeable,
I'm happy to be here, man. This is
Shout
a dream come true. This is the stuff that I told myself I wanted to do as a kid. So to me, to be here right now, this is the ultimate success. I literally said when I was 19, if I can pay my rent off of talking about sports and music, I'm a happy man. And I'm here doing it.
And we're not just here just for the aspect of let's be a team here, but the talks we've had behind the scenes where you're like, bro, these are my passions. I never thought I would have these opportunities. You know, I won't even put all the conversations out there, but knowing like who you are, what your journey is, it's just like, yo, I'm rocking with people who are just like me. So, hey, maybe none of us are supposed to have these chances, but we do now, and we're going to rock the hell out of the chances.
Run with them.
Hey, it's your boy Brandon Day, aka Detroit Kool-Aid, your credential Pistons reporter and writer for the network. I appreciate this team so much. I appreciate y'all. Hey, let's go Chaz Lanier. Let's go Detroit Pistons. Smash that like button and wake up Woodward